Chapter 1947. After Luo Xinchuan learned of the things that happened in the past from Qin Wentian, he ordered people to intentionally leak this news to the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms. Very swiftly, many people in the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms were discussing about this. The Western world was actually the main culprit behind the world-ending battle in ancient Azure Mystic back then. In addition, the Western world's goal was to unify the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms and make everyone in the Immortal Realms worship the gods of the Western world. With regards to the veracity of this news, many people had a doubtful attitude. After all, the Western world was a sacred ground of the Buddhist sect. Also, the world-ending battle was simply too cruel. It was easier for people to accept the explanation that it was a war between the deities of the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms and Azure Mystic. If one said that it was the Western world that caused the world-ending battle, that would be a conspiracy. However, there were also people who held a skeptical attitude. After all, everyone knew that not long ago, the Grim Reaper had descended upon the holy land of Buddhism with darkness. Black clouds covered the sky. Although no one knew what exactly happened there might really be something that no one knew. The attitude of the people of the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms wasn't important. What was important was how the hegemonic powers of the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms felt. They believed this news. In addition, they knew that this news was released by the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect, and there was a high possibility that this news originated from Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian clearly had an extremely deep connection with the Grim Reaper. The Grim Reaper banished the various experts for him, and even appeared in the Western world. If there was someone who was the clearest about what happened back then, that person would be none other than the Grim Reaper. He was someone who personally experienced it. Moreover, they knew a little about some of the abilities of the Buddhist sections. The more they knew, the more they believed the news. The various hegemonic powers also felt an immense pressure. This pressure originated from the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect and the Western world. Long ago, when the seal on ancient Azure Mystic was loosened, there were already rumors saying that the future of the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms would change. Right now, this great change seemed to be getting closer and closer. They all felt that time was pressing. No one could predict what would happen in the future, and what sort of influence this change would have. But what they could do now was to make the most of their time and grow stronger. However, what made them feel somewhat pessimistic was that no matter what conditions they had, it was impossible for them to be compared to the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect and the Western world. The Qin Heavenly Divine Sect relied on the Heaven Vault and had unparalleled potential. As for the Western world itself, it was already a hegemonic power. In the Qin clan, in a certain palace, Qin Zheng was resting with his eyes closed. The sound of footsteps rang out. Qin Zheng opened his eyes only to see his wife walking over. After that, her soft body leaned on him as she embraced him. "What's wrong?" Qin Zheng asked with a gentle voice. "Are we wrong?" She softly spoke, her words causing Qin Zheng's body to tremble. Staring at the beauty in his arms, his eyes flashed with astonishment. He was extremely clear of what sort of a character his wife was. If it was in the past, such words would never have come out of her mouth. But now she actually said that they were wrong? Is the pressure too great? Qin Zheng gently caressed her cheeks and said softly, "Back then, if we didn't treat Qin Yuanfeng in such a manner, maybe the current Qin clan would already cause the other hegemonic powers to feel fear. In fact, the Qin clan might even be able to ascend to a brand new height. But now, because of us, the Qin clan ended up where it is today." Her voice was very low, as though she was questioning everything she did back then. Since things have already come to this, why is there a need to think about this? We didn't do anything wrong. Qin Zheng spoke. There was no right or wrong in the world. If one stood in their own perspective and thought, they would always be right because everyone was selfish. But even now, there's still no news of Deng. I'm afraid that the Qin clan will be destroyed in our hands. Her son was once their pride, the Heaven's Son. His glory was boundless and he wanted to ascend to the peak of the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms. But ever since Qin Yuanfeng's son, Qin Wentian appeared, everything changed. The wheels of history rolled on and their Qin clan and Heaven's Son, Qin Dangtian, were no longer the main characters of this era. They were no longer blessed by the heavens. All the glory was on that extraordinary young man. Danger will return, he definitely will. You know where he went? He will become even stronger than us. Qin Zheng's eyes were filled with determination. Qin Dangtian had experienced the darkest day of his life. Such a setback was sufficient to crush even heavenly deities. However, he still believed that his son would eventually rise up. All the setbacks, humiliation, and suffering would only temper his son and allow him to move forward, allowing him to grow stronger. She nodded as her beautiful eyes flashed with determination. She also believed that if Qin Wentian was her son's destined enemy, Danger would definitely be able to defeat destiny. Once Qin Wentian treated Qin Wentian as his destined enemy, yet Qin Dangtian didn't even spare him a glance. But now, Qin Zheng and his wife have already treated Qin Wentian as Qin Dangtian's destined enemy. But could Qin Dangtian really be able to defeat destiny? The Che clan was like a golden world. The vast ancient clan was enveloped within a formation diagram. Within the Che clan, there was a world where countless experts gathered. In this world, there were countless divine formations. Also, there were countless people inscribing formations here, perfecting them. This entire world was like a gigantic smelting furnace. The heaven and earth smelting furnace in the center of the divine formations radiated an incomparably terrifying energy that gushed forth. In the air above this world, an incomparable radiance could be seen, as though a supreme divine weapon was being forged. At this moment, a few figures stood in the air. They were none other than the Che clan leader and several other heavenly deities. They stared ahead with sharp gazes. This world within the Che clan was their secret. For the people here, other than heavenly deities, no one else was allowed to leave. Once they entered, they wouldn't be able to leave. They would have to forge weapons here for all eternity. Also, they would only be able to forge a single divine weapon. However, all of them came here willingly. For generations of experts from the Che clan, there were many who were fanatical about weaponsmithing, treating weaponsmithing as their religion. Being able to witness the birth of an unparalleled divine weapon in their lifetime, even if they had to pay the price of death, they wouldn't hesitate. The Che clan was known as the #1 weaponsmithing aristocrat clan in the supreme ancient immortal realms. Using the strength of their entire clan, they created a secret world and forged a divine weapon. If the people of the world knew about this, they would surely be filled with terror. How terrifying would a divine weapon forged by them be? We have to speed up the pace. The Che clan leader spoke. The eyes of the heavenly deities beside him gleamed with sharpness. They all knew why their clan leader said this. The Che clan has already offended Qin Wentian. The Western world was also extremely ambitious. None of them could be relied on. It was very dangerous. The supreme ancient immortal realms was about to change. In this storm that would arrive in the future, even for peak powers, they might suffer a calamity of destruction. Everyone from the various powers could sense it. During these hundreds of years, too many major events happened in the supreme ancient immortal realms. Even ordinary people could sense that there would be a huge change in the supreme ancient immortal realms, let alone them. The experts of the supreme ancient immortal realms naturally had to do their best to survive the upcoming storm. Or perhaps they could grow stronger. Not only was the Qin clan and Che clan making preparations, those major powers with powerful foundations were all making preparations. Back then in the deity-level battle in the Qin clan, although all the major powers sent out their experts, it was clear that it was impossible for them to reveal all their trump cards. Hence they still had some reservations. Mystic Region Ziwei Divine Court. Today in the Ziwei Divine Court, 7 heavenly deities gathered together. This was the peak strength of the Ziwei Divine Court. The person in charge of the Ziwei Star Sovereign was an imposing-looking middle-aged man. He wore the Ziwei Divine Crown on his head and appeared incomparably noble. At this moment, the gaze of the Ziwei Star Sovereign turned to a pale-faced young man opposite him. He asked, "Yu Chongkong, where have you been during these days?" "Star Sovereign, don't you already know? Why is there a need to ask?" Yu Chongkong inclined his head, staring at the Ziwei Star Sovereign as he calmly replied, "Impudent. Yu Chongkong, is this the attitude you should have when speaking to the Star Sovereign?" A heavenly deity berated. Back then, Yu Chongkong devoured his master and replaced him. In order to prevent the loss of a heavenly deity, the Ziwei Star Sovereign decided to accept him. After all, heavenly deities were extremely important to the Ziwei Divine Court. It was impossible for them to give up on them so easily. But now Yu Chongkong already caused the Ziwei Star Sovereign to feel threatened. It was getting harder and harder for him to control Yu Changkong. From what he knew, after the Divine Ox clan was destroyed, Yu Changkong vanished. After that, countless lives in the desolate region mysteriously vanished. The Ziwei Star Sovereign stared at Yu Changkong. His eyes were cold and imposing. Why is the restriction I placed on you growing weaker and weaker? Are you trying to undo it? Restriction. Yu Changkong mockingly laughed. After that, his body directly transformed into nothingness, transforming into a cloud of black mist that floated in the air. After that, a terrifying destructive might manifested from the black mist, as though something had shattered. The expression of the Ziwei Star Sovereign changed. After that, Yu Changkong's body reformed again as he smiled at him. Back then, although he accepted Yu Changkong, in order to control him, the Ziwei Star Sovereign planted an extremely powerful restriction on him. But now, that restriction was easily destroyed by Yu Changkong. How did you do it? The Ziwei Star Sovereign coldly stared ahead. Yu Changkong didn't reply. His white face had a mocking smile on it. After that, a terrifying black mist gathered behind him, transforming into a gigantic face. A mere minor Dao wants to restrict me? The gigantic face actually spoke, but its voice was different from Yu Changkong's. The heavenly deities of the Ziwei Divine Court all stared at Yu Changkong. What technique is this? The Ziwei Star Sovereign coldly asked. This isn't a technique. He is a true life existence. Yu Changkong slowly spoke. You transformed him? No. Yu Changkong shook his head. During my cultivation he was automatically born. He said that he is my past life. The hearts of the heavenly deities trembled. They could sense that Yu Changkong was different. He actually had a past life? Who? The Ziwei Star Sovereign coldly asked. A bunch of ant-like heavenly deities. From today onwards, the Ziwei Divine Court will listen to my commands. That face coldly spoke. Yes, listen to my commands. Yu Changkong coldly replied. What's the difference between you and me? That face spoke again. You are you, I am me. Yu Changkong. Yu Changkong was still stubborn. Who is he? The expression of the Ziwei Star Sovereign changed unceasingly. He stared ahead. That gigantic face was staring at him, causing him to feel a faint pressure. Chapter 1948. Who am I? An evil smile appeared on the face of the gigantic face. After that, the face expanded unceasingly, growing larger and larger. In the air, that terrifying face caused people to feel fear. A wave of black fog flowed, and after that, the gigantic face actually disintegrated, transforming into countless heads that appeared in different locations in the world, all of them laughing uproariously at the same time. Can you guess who I am? The countless heads roared at the same time. The heavenly deities of the Ziwei Divine Court all felt their hearts pounding. At this moment they had a feeling that they were in a world of heads. There was no sky and earth around them, only countless man-eating heads. The Ziwei Star Sovereign's brows were tightly furrowed. In his past life, in his mind, he was thinking about the ancient people. After that, a legend appeared in his memories. His heart pounded madly as his calm eyes gradually turned into a look of horror. Have you guessed it? That head laughed evilly. In that case, will you submit or become my nourishment? The Ziwei Star Sovereign stood up. Under the shocked gazes of the heavenly deities of the Ziwei Divine Court, he actually bowed to the countless heads. The Ziwei Star Sovereign pays his respects to the Divine Sovereign. I'm willing to obey your command. Divine Sovereign? When the heavenly deities heard this, they also pondered for a moment. After that, their hearts trembled as a look of disbelief appeared on their faces. Yu Changkong's past life was actually him? No wonder Yu Changkong could comprehend an evil art and devour his master. For the sake of cultivation, he was willing to sacrifice his humanity. So it turned out that it was him. Their hearts trembled unceasingly. All of them stood up and bowed. We pay our respects to the Divine Sovereign. The Divine Sovereign no longer exists. My current body is him. You guys should pay your respects to him. That evil head laughed evilly. He stared at Yu Changkong only to see Yu Changkong calmly sitting there. He didn't know who he was in his past life. Before this, when this fellow appeared, he also jumped in fright. But now, he gradually accepted it. In addition, he also knew many things. He didn't reject the identity of his past life, but he was still Yu Changkong. In this life, he wanted to control everything in his hands. The heavenly deities of the Ziwei Divine Court stared at Yu Changkong with complicated expressions on their faces. However, they were heavenly deities after all, and they quickly accepted this reality. From the rumors, they knew how evil and terrifying this existence before them was. If they didn't submit, this existence might really devour them whole. As for resisting, the Ziwei Star Sovereign only had such a thought for an instant. After that, he extinguished it. Although he was strong, he had no hope against this baleful god. Since he has awakened, another calamity would surely descend upon the supreme ancient immortal realms. You are the Ziwei Star Sovereign. In that case, you guys can address me as Moon God. Yu Changkong calmly spoke. The heavenly deities of the Ziwei Divine Court nodded and bowed. I pay my respects to Moon God. Yes. Yu Changkong nodded. Let's make our preparations. It's about time to settle the grudges between the mystic region. The heavenly deities of the Ziwei Divine Court felt their hearts trembling. Was Qin Wentian going to act against the Great Devil Divine Palace and the Heavenly Deity Mountain? At this moment, the Ziwei Star Sovereign felt extremely complicated in his heart. This baleful god's reincarnation actually appeared in their Ziwei Divine Court in the mystic region. He didn't know if this was a blessing or a calamity. The Ziwei Divine Court would become even stronger than before. There was no need to doubt this. However, the reputation of this baleful god back then was simply too terrifying. No one knew what he would transform the Ziwei Divine Court into. Moon God, this time around, who do you plan to act against first? The Ziwei Star Sovereign asked. The Heavenly Deity Mountain is weak. Let's deal with them first. Yu Changkong calmly spoke. During these years in the mystic region, the conflict between the three hegemonic powers had always existed. Right now, Yu Changkong controlled the Ziwei Divine Court and was finally preparing to act against the Heavenly Deity Mountain. Send out a message first, saying that the Ziwei Divine Court will pay a visit to the Heavenly Deity Mountain. By doing so, the Heavenly Deity Mountain will be wary and gather all their experts back. Not a single one will be left out. Yu Changkong's eyes flashed with coldness. In this era, numerous experts were rising up. Once, Heaven's Son was someone he could only look up to. But now, his mortal enemy, Qin Wentian, was the controller of the Heaven Vault. In that case, what about him? Although he was born from his previous life, he needed to grow stronger as well. He headed to the desolate region and devoured countless experts. In that case, it was time for him to act against some heavenly deities. The heavenly deities of the Ziwei Divine Court felt their hearts trembling. Sending out a message first, causing the Heavenly Deity Mountain to be on guard, giving them time to gather all their experts. How ruthless! This was in line with his usual style of doing things. No one knew what sort of terrifying impact this conversation between the heavenly deities of the Ziwei Divine Court would have on the mystic region. The changes in the supreme ancient immortal realms started from the desolate region and the heaven region, gradually spreading out. Several days later, a message was sent to the Heavenly Deity Mountain. The Ziwei Star Sovereign would lead the heavenly deities of the Ziwei Divine Court to pay a visit. After receiving the message, the Heavenly Deity Mountain acted as though they were facing a great enemy. They gathered all their heavenly deities and prepared to face this storm. At this moment, the Heavenly Deity Mountain had no idea what this message meant to them. After the Great Devil Divine Palace received the news, they paid close attention to the movements of the Heavenly Deity Mountain. Did the Ziwei Divine Court want to declare war? However, this matter didn't cause too great of a commotion in the supreme ancient immortal realms. After all, the attention of the supreme ancient immortal realms was still focused on the Western world and the Heaven Vault. Although the battle in the mystic region was a major matter, it was sufficient to cause the supreme ancient immortal realms to tremble. But now, it was no longer able to attract the attention of the supreme ancient immortal realms. At most, they would pay attention to it and see what would happen next. At this moment, no one could predict what would happen next. Qin Wentian didn't idle around. He naturally understood that the supreme ancient immortal realms hasn't unleashed their full strength yet. In addition to the pressure from the Western world, he had to grow as fast as possible. Also, he mustn't be alone. At this moment in the Heaven Vault, Many floating palaces in the starry space shone with resplendent light. It was like they were all in an independent dimension. Qin Wentian's body was right in front of one of the palaces. His body radiated the might of his Tao art as the light around him flashed unceasingly, gradually forming a small independent dimension. Ancient runes appeared around Qin Wentian, imprinting them into the minor world. The runes contained a Tao art that could change the heavenly Tao laws of this minor world. In this case, there's no need for me to maintain it. The flow of time in this minor world can automatically stabilize itself. Qin Wentian spoke in a low voice. After that, he took a step out and moved towards another direction. Gradually, in the heaven vault, many such minor worlds appeared in the floating palaces. Luo Shenchuan, the Kuan sovereign, and the other heavenly deities all felt extremely shocked when they entered. Qin Wentian already didn't need to use energy to maintain it. He could create a minor world that could exist eternally, changing the laws of time. In the future, if one cultivated in there, the flow of time would be different compared to the outside world. Wentian, how is the flow of time in here? Luo Shenchuan walked to Qin Wentian's side and asked. About 100 times. Right now, I can only maintain this speed. Qin Wentian spoke. Luo Shenchuan nodded. 100 times was already very impressive. In the future, if one cultivated for 100 years in here, it would merely be a year in the outside world. This was extremely important to the Qin heavenly divine sect. Awesome! The heaven-devouring demon sovereign walked over. The effect of changing the flow of time is limited to us old fellows. But to the current Qin heavenly divine sect, it's extremely valuable. Qin Wentian nodded lightly. The heaven-devouring demon sovereign and the other heavenly deities were all existences that have lived for countless years. If they wanted to grow stronger, they couldn't just depend on time alone. In truth, although Qin Wentian's ability was rare, there were still some hegemonic powers in the supreme ancient immortal realms that had such secret realms. Didn't his inspiration originate from the time realm of the Convention of the Myriad Realms? The time realm was jointly controlled by the hegemonic powers of the mystic region. However, to Qin Wentian and some of his good friends like the young Jun Mengchen, Little Rascal, and Princess Kitamura, they were different. Their comprehension abilities were very strong, and what they lacked the most was time. Hence, secret realms that could change the flow of time were extremely valuable. I still need to create more secret realms like this on my constellations. If you guys have any needs, you can tell me. Qin Wentian laughed. The people around him nodded their heads. Although right now they all felt a heavy pressure, at the same time they also saw a glimmer of hope. Everyone casually chatted. At this moment, Luo Shenchuan's brows suddenly furrowed as he furrowed his brows. Grandfather, what's wrong? Qin Wentian discovered Luo Shenchuan's abnormality and asked. Luo Shenchuan inclined his head and stared at Qin Wentian. Earlier, he received a voice transmission from the outside and learned of an extremely shocking piece of news. The heavenly deity mountain was annihilated. Luo Shenchuan spoke. Qin Wentian's heart trembled. Even with his current status, when he heard that a hegemonic power was annihilated, he still felt shock in his heart. Ziwei Divine Court? Qin Wentian heard that a few days ago, the Ziwei Divine Court wanted to pay a visit to the heavenly deity mountain. Luo Shenchuan nodded. Back then, when news of the mystic region spread out, no one expected that the heavenly deity mountain would be annihilated. What does the Ziwei Divine Court want to do? The heaven-devouring demon sovereign frowned, feeling somewhat puzzled. Right now, the entire supreme ancient immortal realms was wary of the heaven vault and the powerful Western world. The Ziwei Divine Court actually wanted to annihilate the heavenly deity mountain at such a time? This matter was extremely strange. I don't know. The news said that the heavenly deity mountain collapsed and was razed to flat ground. There are countless skeletons on the mountain, turning it into a land of death. No one survived. Luo Shenchuan slowly spoke. Qin Wentian's expression flickered. For some reason, the person he thought of at this moment was actually Yu Chongkong. Yu Chongkong was none other than one of the heavenly deities of the Ziwei Divine Court. No one was clearer than Qin Wentian on how sinister this man was. Chapter 1949. The destruction of the heavenly deity mountain caused a huge wave of commotion in the supreme ancient immortal realms. No one expected that the invitation letter sent by the Ziwei Divine Court would lead to such a terrifying ending. In the mystic region, the three hegemonic powers, the Ziwei Divine Court, Great Devil Divine Palace, and the Heavenly Deity Mountain, have existed for countless years. Although the Heavenly Deity Mountain was slightly weaker, it was still a hegemonic power after all and had some foundations. The three hegemonic powers didn't dare to start a true war of annihilation against each other. After all, from everyone's point of view, even if the Ziwei Divine Court could win against the Heavenly Deity Mountain, it was impossible for them to kill all the heavenly deities here. In the current era where the Heaven Vault Alliance and the Western world were at their peak, no one would have thought that the Ziwei Divine Court would start a war of annihilation against the Heavenly Deity Mountain at this moment. In addition, the Ziwei Divine Court completely annihilated the Heavenly Deity Mountain. After the Divine Ox Clan, another hegemonic power in the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms was destroyed. This caused the experts in the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms to feel a sense of alarm. Even hegemonic powers might cease to exist in a single night. In this chaotic era, if one wasn't strong enough, they would fall and become a stepping stone for others. A formless pressure enveloped the experts in the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms. The war of annihilation in the mystic region caused their sense of danger to grow increasingly intense. At this moment, in the ruins of the Heavenly Deity Mountain in the mystic region, many experts arrived. These people were from the various powers, and among them, there were experts from the Great Devil Divine Palace. A group of devil cultivators stood together and stared at the ruins before them. Once there was an incomparably majestic divine mountain here. But now the divine mountain was reduced to rubble and even dust. How did the Ziwei Divine Court do this? Someone asked, as though he was mumbling to himself. No one knew, even the Great Devil Divine Palace didn't know. When the Ziwei Divine Court sent the invitation letter to the Heavenly Deity Mountain, they were already paying attention to this matter. Also, there were experts who came to the Heavenly Deity Mountain back then. However, on that day, a terrifying black fog appeared on the Heavenly Deity Mountain, enveloping the entire mountain, isolating everything. After that, a terrifying commotion could be heard from the black fog, as though the heavens and earth were collapsing. After that, the black fog frenziedly expanded, enveloping the entire battlefield in the sky. No one knew what kind of battle was happening inside. When everything ended, the black mist dissipated, leaving behind a stretch of ruins and corpses strewn all over the place. It was a ghastly sight. Many of those corpses were mutilated and headless. Up until now, they were still in the ruins below, uncleaned by anyone. Many experts in the air felt a wave of disgust. Even if they were experts who had seen countless slaughters, they still felt extremely uncomfortable when they saw this hell on earth. Right now, if one were to say who felt the greatest pressure, it would undoubtedly be the Great Devil Divine Palace. They had always been in conflict with the Ziwei Divine Court, and now, the Heavenly Deity Mountain was destroyed by the Ziwei Divine Court. In that case, would the Great Devil Divine Palace, which was also in the mystic region, be attacked by the Ziwei Divine Court one day? The possibility of this was extremely high. Since the Ziwei Divine Court had the ability to destroy the Heavenly Deity Mountain so easily, they definitely had some unknown methods. Great sin. Someone sighed. How many people did the Heavenly Deity Mountain have? It was hard to calculate. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that the scene below was hell. The Ziwei Divine Court is too crazy. Someone sighed. Even in the entire history of the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms, the number of such hegemonic powers being annihilated was extremely few. Everyone deeply understood what it meant by common people are like weeds. When a true deity-level battle erupted, ordinary people were no different from ants. Many people left, feeling extremely uncomfortable when they saw such a hellish scene. There were also people who acted to clean up, using powerful energy to cause the earth to tremble. After that, countless corpses were buried underground. Ever since Qin Wentian learned of the news of the Heavenly Deity Mountain being destroyed from his maternal grandfather, Luoshan Chuan, he learned more details. Although he already knew that this world wasn't a benevolent one and the battles between hegemonic powers were extremely cruel, he still felt that it was a little too cruel to kill countless people. These people weren't demons like the Divine Ox Clan, they were humans the same as them. What role did Yu Changkong play in this? Qin Wentian had no way to know, but he definitely had a connection to this. The power of the black fog, wasn't it related to Yu Changkong? Qin Wentian gave the order to gather information on Yu Changkong's recent movements. He discovered that recently, many people and demonic beasts in the desolate region disappeared, and were all faintly related to Yu Chongkong. Qin Wentian instantly thought of an evil art. Yu Chongkong was using the lives of people to cultivate his evil art. It was very possible that he had comprehended an evil art similar to the one in the world of reincarnation. Yu Chongkong was someone who would do anything for the sake of strength. There was nothing Yu Chongkong wouldn't do. But just like the experts of the supreme ancient immortal realms, he also didn't understand why the Ziwei Divine Court could destroy the heavenly deity mountain. Qin Wentian could also sense that the current supreme ancient immortal realms would change sooner or later. In truth, if it wasn't for the Grim Reaper appearing and temporarily suppressing the Western world and the experts of the supreme ancient immortal realms, he wouldn't be so carefree now. The only thing he could do now was to improve himself. Temporarily suppressing all thoughts, Qin Wentian entered closed-door seclusion in the heaven vault. Also, many people around him also entered closed-door seclusion. It was rare for the crazy old freak to fight for a period of peace for them, causing the experts of the supreme ancient immortal realms to not dare to antagonize them. They naturally wanted to take this opportunity to strengthen themselves. If the supreme ancient immortal realms changed in the future, it would be even harder for them to deal with them. Hence, the situation in the outside world changed. Many people of the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect entered the Heaven Vault to cultivate, including those around Qin Wentian. However, there were still people taking turns to guard the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect. Once there were any changes, they would immediately inform Qin Wentian. Time slowly flowed by. To the supreme ancient immortal realms, a period of 2 years was truly too short. There wouldn't be too great of a ripple. Ever since the Ziwei Divine Court destroyed the Heavenly Deity Mountain, the Great Devil Divine Palace has been on high alert, constantly guarding against the Ziwei Divine Court. However, the Ziwei Divine Court didn't seem to have any plans to attack them immediately. They remained silent for a period of time, like they weren't the ones who destroyed the Heavenly Deity Mountain back then. However, to the Heaven Vault a huge change happened during these 2 years. There were more people who broke through to the deity realm, and there were more than one of them. Right now, the close friends and family of Qin Wentian, Little Rascal Jun Mengchen, Qi Yu, Princess Kitamura, Qing Bai Qing, Nanfeng Yaoyue and the others have all broken through to the deity realm. All of them were people guided by the wills of heavenly deities. In addition to their own outstanding talent and comprehension abilities, as well as the excellent cultivation environment in the Heaven Vault, all of these advantages stacked together. Most probably, no other hegemonic powers in the supreme ancient immortal realms would be able to compete with them in terms of cultivation conditions. This was why so many heavenly deities appeared. Naturally, other than all of these, there was also time. The secret realm created by Qin Wentian gave them time. Although only 2 years had passed in the outside world, in truth, they had cultivated for over 200 years before they had today's results. With regards to the changes that happened in the Heaven Vault, the people in the outside world had no idea. If they knew that the Heaven Vault was producing heavenly deities in batches, most probably, their wariness would be even more intense. It has only been 2+ years. If they were given more time to develop, only heaven knew how many heavenly deities would appear in the future. If this continued, most probably at that time, other than those at the very peak, the Heaven Vault Alliance wouldn't be able to compare to the Western world. Also, the Heaven Vault had the protection of the Grim Reaper. Headmaster Yi also took good care of Qin Wentian. Other than those people before, there was also another cultivator from the Tiandao Sacred Academy, who broke through in the Heaven Vault. Back then, this person was a teacher who took good care of Qin Wentian. His name was Divine Sound. He was once an expert on the Dao-seeking rankings, and had high hopes of breaking through to the heavenly deity realm. Now he managed to break through in the cultivation environment of the Heaven Vault, becoming a heavenly deity. At this moment, Divine Sound was beside Qin Wentian. He stared at the Heaven Vault and sighed. Wentian, I have to thank you for being able to break through so quickly. Although his comprehension abilities were very strong, in truth, he had already cultivated for many years and needed time to consolidate his foundation. Being able to break through within a few hundred years was inextricably linked to the Heaven Vault. If it wasn't for Qin Wentian controlling the Heaven Vault, it would be impossible for him to enter the Heaven Vault for cultivation. There was no such person who would be so generous and selfless. Senior brother, if you say this, I'm going to be angry. Qin Wentian pretended to be angry as he glared at Divine Sound. Back then in the Tiandao Sacred Academy, his senior brother took good care of him and allowed Divine Sound to enter the Heaven Vault for cultivation. This was nothing much. To him it wasn't much. But to Divine Sound it was different. The Heavenly Deity Realm. How many lives were there in the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms? And how many heavenly deities were there? This was the peak that everyone in the world pursued, but how many people would be able to step into it? Right now, Qin Wentian managed to reach this realm he yearned for even in his dreams. This feeling was indescribable. Alright, I won't be polite with you. Divine Sound laughed. He glanced at the many secret realms in the Heaven Vault and asked, given 100 more years, how many heavenly deities can you produce? As he spoke, even he himself shook his head, not daring to imagine. 100 years to a secret realm was equivalent to 10,000 years. The Heaven Vault would produce an army of heavenly deities. This was also the reason why the experts of the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms were so anxious to join forces to attack Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian's potential was too terrifying. 100 years is too long. Qin Wentian shook his head. With 10,000 years of cultivation, what cultivation realm could he reach? From the time he started cultivating until now, it had only been 1,000 years. Also, he felt that the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms wouldn't be able to give him such a long time. Although 100 years wasn't considered too long in the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms, and if it was in the past, it would be something that could be accomplished in the blink of an eye. But now, the situation in the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms was too sensitive. Wentian. At this moment, a weak voice rang out in Qin Wentian's mind. Qin Wentian's eyes flashed as he spoke, "Senior brother, I have something to do. I will make a move first." As the sound of his voice faded, he directly vanished. This caused Divine Sound's eyes to flash. Qin Wentian was in such a hurry. Could it be that something major happened? In a secret realm, Princess Kitamura was weakly lying there. A beam of light descended as Qin Wentian appeared before her. He squatted down as a look of worry appeared in his eyes. What's going on? Qin Wentian sat on the ground and helped Princess Kitamura up, allowing her to lean on him. At the same time, his divine sense entered Princess Kitamura's body to investigate. Very swiftly, he sensed an extremely terrifying destructive energy ravaging through Princess Kitamura's soul. It was like her soul had been frozen solid. It's because of my own cultivation. Princess Kitamura's body trembled. She felt extremely cold. Chapter 1950. How powerful was Qin Wentian's perception? He instantly sensed that Yohuang's problem had appeared in her soul. Her coldness originated from the inside out. Looking at her trembling, Qin Wentian couldn't bear to see this. Right now, she was a heavenly deity. It was very hard to imagine how strong the coldness must be to cause her to feel so cold to such an extent. He understood Princess Kitamura. If it wasn't for the fact that she couldn't endure it any longer, she definitely wouldn't summon him over. Her personality was extremely headstrong. Qin Wentian hugged her, wanting to give her some warmth. At the same time, his soul force probed Yohuang's injuries. Her soul seemed to have been corroded by an extremely cold Dao might. Her soul was about to be sealed in ice, trembling. No wonder her body would feel cold to such an extent. Even her soul found it hard to endure it. From this, one could very well imagine how terrible her current condition was. The power of his bloodline circulated, flowing into Princess Kitamura's body. That was like the light of a candle, slowly dispelling the coldness. At the same time, his soul force continued to seep into Princess Kitamura's soul. His bloodline power also fused within, warming up Princess Kitamura's soul. Although his soul force was powerful, it was very difficult to dispel this coldness so easily. He still needed Princess Kitamura's own soul force to resist and expel it. After all, he couldn't harm Yohuang's soul. He could only protect her and provide her warmth. As expected, as Qin Wentian moved, Princess Kitamura's trembling lessened. However, Qin Wentian felt extremely unbearable right now. When he was helping Princess Kitamura, in truth, his soul was also enduring the corrosion of that coldness. In addition, he couldn't resist because he had to share the burden for Princess Kitamura. He could only endure it head-on. Hence, the two of them maintained an extremely ambiguous posture. Qin Wentian quietly sat there while Princess Kitamura curled up in his embrace. The scene was extremely charming, but right now, they basically didn't have the time to think about this. They were both doing their best to resist the corrosion of that coldness. Time flowed by bit, time seemed to stop. This secret realm was extremely quiet, there was no sound at all. Gradually, Baiming Yohuang's soul shone with a dazzling light. A formless energy permeated the air, gradually working together with Baiming Yohuang's soul energy, shattering the coldness in the air. As to why she was in such a situation, it was because she suffered a backlash. For a period of time, she couldn't use her soul energy freely and was frozen. But now as she recovered, she naturally regained the initiative. Very swiftly, Baiming Yohuang's body finally stopped trembling. Her body gradually returned to its original body temperature, exuding traces of warmth. Princess Kitamura inclined her head and saw Qin Wentian's chin. If she continued upwards, it was his eyes. It was like she suddenly sensed the ambiguous posture of the two of them. Princess Kitamura's face instantly turned red. This posture was simply too. Qin Wentian blinked. He naturally sensed Baiming's recovery, and could also feel the warmth of her body in his embrace. However, he also felt very awkward and didn't know what to do for a time. Are you still not going to let go? Princess Kitamura lowered her head slightly and stared at Qin Wentian's hand. Qin Wentian started and also stared at his own hand. When he saw where his hands were, Qin Wentian's face was filled with black lines. He wanted nothing more than to find a hole to hide in. This was too awkward. Why didn't he feel it before this? At this moment, that feeling was too obvious. The place where his hands touched was extremely soft. Retracting his hands with lightning speed, Qin Wentian smiled, not daring to look at Princess Kitamura's eyes. Princess Kitamura left his embrace and stood up. Seeing her beautiful eyes staring at him, Qin Wentian awkwardly spoke, Baiming, I didn't do it on purpose. Princess Kitamura's face was still flushed red. She was originally an icy beauty, but now that she had such an expression, it was unknown how mesmerizing it was. I know. Princess Kitamura spoke in a light voice. She wouldn't blame Qin Wentian. She was silently cursing herself. Why couldn't she endure it? She actually called him over, letting him see how embarrassed she was. Not only that, she even did such a seductive action. What's going on exactly? Why is cultivation like this? Qin Wentian had a look of bewilderment on his face as he asked. It was unknown if he was intentionally trying to change the topic. Princess Kitamura's beautiful eyes glanced at him. Those deep and beautiful eyes of hers seemed to contain a hidden meaning. Stabilizing her emotions, Princess Kitamura frowned and spoke in a light voice. It's my fault for being too impatient. After breaking through to the heavenly deity realm, I wanted to comprehend the usage of Tao energy, allowing myself to grow stronger. I didn't expect that in the process of comprehension, I was too aggressive and ended up suffering a backlash to my soul. Qin Wentian understood. The usage of soul energy was even more dangerous. Princess Kitamura's cultivation base wasn't stable, hence she wanted to comprehend the Tao of the soul. This was why she injured herself, almost sealing her soul in ice. When he thought of her pitiful appearance earlier, Qin Wentian felt some heartache in his heart. Don't be so rash in the future. With me around, there's no need for you to be so impatient. Qin Wentian seriously spoke. Upon seeing his eyes, Princess Kitamura felt like she was wronged. She lowered her head slightly, but she still replied in a light voice, Oh. For some reason, although Qin Wentian's tone was very solemn, she felt warmth in her heart. When she thought of the contact between their souls, this feeling was indescribable with words. It was like the two of them were pressed together. The contact between their souls was even clearer compared to the contact between their bodies. His soul was protecting her. Right now, the situation in the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms is extremely chaotic. Back then, I heard you saying that the Heavenly Deity Mountain was destroyed. Now there's also the Western world. There are too many enemies in the Heaven Vault. How can we rely on you alone? Princess Kitamura sighed in her heart. However, she didn't say this out loud. She was also very anxious and hoped to grow stronger. She didn't need to let Qin Wentian bear everything alone. This was a pressure that came from the entire Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms. From this, one could very well imagine how heavy the pressure was. However, It's not like I didn't gain anything this time around. Right now, I should have already gained control of that power. This can be considered a blessing in disguise. Princess Kitamura softly spoke. She weakly inclined her head and glanced at Qin Wentian. Upon seeing that Qin Wentian was still glaring at her, she could only lower her head. She felt somewhat depressed in her heart. She didn't do anything wrong and was even injured. Why did she feel like she was a little girl who did something wrong? No matter what, cultivation is safety first. Don't forget that the crazy old freak wanted me to protect you. If something happened to you, would that old freak spare me? Qin Wentian spoke. Princess Kitamura was thinking in her heart. Was it because of the crazy old freak? Since you've already comprehended it, there's no need to be in a hurry to cultivate. Rest for a period of time and wait for your comprehension to stabilize before continuing. Qin Wentian spoke. Princess Kitamura nodded. It was like she wouldn't refute him at all. Whatever Qin Wentian said, it was as though everything was the truth. Today everything was in chaos. All right, let me sense the power you've comprehended. Qin Wentian smiled. It was as though his earlier solemnity was all an act. Princess Kitamura was somewhat speechless upon seeing his expression, but she still nodded her head. After that, a powerful surge of soul energy was unleashed. Qin Wentian instantly felt a surge of soul energy invading his soul soundlessly. After that, he shuddered as his soul felt somewhat cold. Don't stop, use everything you have. Let me experience this soul Dao art. Qin Wentian could sense that Princess Kitamura wanted to stop, and immediately spoke. Princess Kitamura's beautiful eyes flashed. After that, an even more powerful surge of soul energy gushed forth, and Qin Wentian only felt his body stiffening up, unable to move. His soul felt as though it was being sealed by ice, and his entire being became sluggish. After that, his powerful soul forged a fearsome defense, preventing the ice energy from completely invading his soul. Only then did he feel somewhat better. Princess Kitamura retracted her energy. Qin Wentian's eyes gleamed with sharpness. As expected of a soul Dao art. How terrifying. Yu Huang, if your attack is unleashed in combat, it would have a miraculous effect. Naturally, even if you unleash it head-on, the power would still be extremely great. Qin Wentian praised. No wonder she would suffer a backlash. With such a powerful attack, if something went wrong during the process of comprehending it, it would be very easy for her to injure herself. In the future, when a deity-level war erupts in the supreme ancient immortal realms, I can follow by your side and interfere with your opponents. After that, you can act to hunt them down. Princess Kitamura seriously spoke. Qin Wentian stared at the serious expression in her eyes. Clearly, she had long since thought of such a battle, following by Qin Wentian's side and assisting him in battle. She could only help Qin Wentian like this. As for more things, it would be difficult for her to do them. She could only do her best to grow stronger. Seeing the look of anticipation in Princess Kitamura's eyes, Qin Wentian couldn't bear to reject her. He could only nod his head. If we really encounter powerful opponents, we can fight together. Also, not only you, Qing by Qing, Yao Yu and a few others have all broken through to the deity realm and are growing stronger. In the future deity-level wars, we will no longer be alone. The number of heavenly deities we have might be inferior to the Western world, but we wouldn't be inferior to any other hegemonic powers. Princess Kitamura smiled and nodded. She naturally felt joy from the bottom of her heart when she saw the heaven vault growing stronger bit by bit. I'll go and see father. Princess Kitamura spoke. Go ahead. Qin Wentian nodded. Princess Kitamura's silhouette flickered as she departed. She was still somewhat absent-minded. Just when she was about to go and see her father, she was thinking about something. Earlier, the first person she thought of contacting wasn't her father but Qin Wentian instead. Was this simply because Qin Wentian was powerful? Chapter 1951. Princess Kitamura has cultivated for many years and has never stopped. She naturally wanted to visit her father. Qin Wentian left this place and came to his cultivation palace in the Heaven Vault. The entire floating palace was within a secret realm of time. His divine sense spread out. Qin Wentian found Qing'er, Qingcheng and the others. Everyone come over here. Very swiftly many people gathered here. Qingcheng, Qing'er and Yi Qinyu naturally didn't need to be mentioned. Bai Qing, Little Rascal, Jun Mengchen, Nanfeng Yaoyue, Nam Huang Yunqi and the others also came over. They were somewhat puzzled as to why Qin Wentian would suddenly summon them. Nothing much, I just miss everyone a little. Qin Wentian smiled when he saw the puzzled gazes of many people. His words caused many people to be speechless. However, they didn't know that Qin Wentian's heart was stirred when he saw Bai Mingyuhuang injured in her cultivation. In truth, many people here were the same as Bai Mingyuhuang. In order to be able to help him, they cultivated frenziedly. Wentian Gij, I just reached a crucial point in my cultivation and you already called me over. Bai Qing mumbled in a depressed manner. She glared at Qin Wentian. Although she was already a heavenly deity, in front of Qin Wentian, she would always be that young girl from before. Haha. In the future if there's anything you don't understand, you can always harass me. Qin Wentian laughed. You've said it. Bai Qing smiled sweetly. However, she was only saying this. She wouldn't be able to bear to harass Qin Wentian. She wouldn't disturb Qin Wentian's cultivation often. Naturally, Qin Wentian nodded and smiled. He then glanced at the people around him as a smile appeared on his face. Sis Luo Huan, Sis Ling Shuang, both of you are so powerful now, growing younger and more beautiful. So what? No one wants it. Luo Huan giggled as she winked at Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian's face was filled with black lines. This senior sister of his was truly speechless. Both of their cultivations were already so high, yet she still liked to tease him. He didn't reply or else he would definitely fall into a trap. Yunqi Shunga, both of your cultivations have already reached this level. You have to work even harder. The heavenly god realm is already far away. Qin Wentian glanced at the two beauties. Namhuang Yunqi and Nanfeng Shunga were both holy maidens of the Namhuang clan, and had outstanding talent. They cultivated in the heaven vault and have long since become world overlords. The two girls nodded lightly. His gaze continued to wander around as if he was looking for something. He then asked, where are the two little girls? How could they stay idle? Xian Xian and Jiang Ting brought them out to play. Fan Lakai replied, your precious daughters went out to play. Why aren't you following them? Qin Wentian smiled at Fan Lu. So it turned out that Fan Lu and Xian Xian also had a daughter named Fan Yi. Although her age was only 1 or 2 years old in the outside world because she grew up in the heaven vault, she was already an adult. Fan Lu had a bitter look on his face. What a headache. That little lass was extremely playful. He initially thought that his daughter would be more gentle and quiet. But who would have thought that his daughter was even more lively than a boy? If you guys are free, you guys should also go out and relax. Although cultivation in the heaven vault is good, you still have to move around occasionally. Qin Wentian smiled. Everyone nodded. It was just that because the pressure the heaven vault and the divine sect were facing was too great, they were all busy with cultivation, wanting to grow stronger as fast as possible. Hence, they naturally didn't have any other thoughts. Sect leader, a monk from the Western world is here to pay a visit. At this moment, a voice rang out in Qin Wentian's mind, causing Qin Wentian's eyes to flash with sharpness. Several years ago, Reverend Bujia from the Western world came to pay a visit. Upon learning that Qin Wentian wasn't willing to hand over the heaven vault, the Western world started to act. They wanted the Qingkuan sect and 9 Heavens mystical palace to leave the heaven vault, breaking their alliance. At the same time, the experts from the supreme ancient immortal realms also came. The Grim Reaper appeared, ending the grand show before it even started. Right now, the Western world, which had been silent for many years, once again sent people over. Qin Wentian took out his messaging crystal and replied, I'm coming over now. After keeping his messaging crystal, Qin Wentian stared at everyone before him. The people from the Western world have arrived at the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect. The eyes of everyone flashed, feeling some worry. The Western world had always been a source of worry in their hearts. Now that the Western world has appeared again, they had no idea what they wanted to do. Don't worry, the current strength of our heaven vault is sufficient to deal with any changes. I'll go out and take a look. Qin Wentian spoke. Wentian Gij, let's go together as well. We can go out for a walk. Bai Qing spoke. Qin Wentian nodded. After that, the group of them headed out together. At this moment, a group of monks clad in kasaya appeared in the Qin heavenly divine sect. All of them had solemn looks on their faces, radiating a holy light. Their palms were pressed together before their faces, exuding an otherworldly aura. Many people in the divine sect had curious gazes as they surveyed these monks. "Mother, these bald donkeys seem to be serious." At the side, a beautiful young girl transmitted her voice to another beautiful woman beside her. This woman was none other than Fan Li's wife, Xian Xian. As for the beautiful young girl, she was none other than her and Fan Li's daughter, Fan Yi. Although she was mischievous, she wouldn't scold others to their faces. "Don't speak." Xian Xian frowned as she replied. Her expression changed slightly. She heard from Fan Lu that these bald donkeys of the Buddhist sect were extremely powerful. In fact, for those with high cultivation bases, they could even intercept the immortal sense transmissions of others. They were extremely powerful and they had to guard against them. "Why? Father said before that these bald donkeys are all sanctimonious and look like saints, but they are actually extremely evil." Fan Yi continued. Xian Xian glanced at her and at the same time, she turned her gaze to the monks, observing their reactions. At this moment, the monk in the lead turned his gaze over to Fan Yi and smiled. "The people of the world are all mortals. How can they have the appearance of saints? We are nothing but flesh and blood. After we die, our bones will return to the earth." Fan Yi opened her mouth as a look of shock appeared on her face. She pointed to the monk. You can hear my voice transmission?" There was another beautiful young girl beside her. This was none other than Ouyang Qinshin. She also had a look of shock on her face. "There are countless Taoists in the Buddhist sect. This is merely a minor Tao. There's no need to mention it. Little miss, you are extremely intelligent and have a wisdom root. If you wish to learn it, I can bring you to the Buddhist sect to cultivate this Tao." That monk slowly spoke. Fan Yi blinked her eyes and glanced at Xian Xian who was beside her. Xian Xian's expression changed as she replied, "Reverend is too polite. This lass is still young and spoke nonsense. Reverend, please don't blame her. Just some words aren't important." The monk smiled. "It's just that this young lady truly has a wisdom root. Why don't you consider it?" Fan Yi blinked her eyes. "You are lying to me. Given your strength, it's an extremely easy thing for you to impart some Taoist to me. Why do you need to go to the Buddhist sect? You can just do it here. Why don't you teach me how to listen to the voice transmissions of others?" The Reverend had a look of contemplation on his face. After that, he asked, "Miss, what's your relationship with the sect leader of the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect? Benefactor Qin?" "My godfather." Fan Yi spoke in satisfaction. "So this is the case. As the saying goes, this Tao cannot be imparted to outsiders. Since you have a wisdom root, I'm willing to impart it to you. But since your relationship with Benefactor Qin is so close, I won't be imparting this Tao art to you." The monk laughed. "Are you afraid that I will impart it to my godfather?" Fan Yi stared at the monk. "What sort of character is my godfather? He naturally wouldn't be interested in minor Taoists like you. In addition, since you told me that this Tao cannot be imparted to outsiders, I naturally won't impart it to others. But since you don't believe me, just treat it as if I didn't say anything." The monk stared at Fan Yi, who spoke frankly with assurance. After that, a kind smile appeared on his face. "What an intelligent young lady. Since you have fate with the Buddhist sect, I will impart this Tao art to you. Don't resist." After speaking, a bright light radiated from him. A terrifying Buddhist light radiated from him, incomparably holy. After that, the Buddhist light seeped into Fan Yi's mind. Her forehead lit up with a Buddhic light that grew brighter and brighter. Only after a long time did it gradually dissipate. After that, a look of shock appeared on Fan Yi's face. She stared at the monk before her and spoke. "You monks truly have some attainments in the Tao. Miss is praising us too much." That monk calmly spoke. Ouyang Qinshin, who was beside Fan Yi, tugged on her sleeves and spoke in a light voice. "You are truly audacious." They grew up in the heaven vault and naturally understood the Western world very well. These were monks from the Western world. Yet Fan Yi actually accepted them to impart the Tao to her. "In our divine sect, with Godfather around, what's there to be afraid of?" Fan Yi mischievously blinked her eyes and smiled. Clearly, she was filled with admiration for Qin Wentian. "You are speaking ill of Godfather again. At this moment a voice rang out. After that, a group of figures appeared. The person in the lead was none other than Qin Wentian. Godfather. Fan Yi ran over and dove into Qin Wentian's embrace, rubbing her head against Qin Wentian's chest. How can I bear to speak ill of Godfather? Fan Yi giggled. Qin Wentian rubbed the little lass's head as a doting look appeared on his face. He was under immense pressure, hence, he temporarily didn't consider having children. But for Fan Yi and Ouyang Qinshin, he always treated them like his own daughters. Uncle Qin. Ouyang Qinshin also walked over, hugging onto Qin Wentian's arm. They also treated Qin Wentian like a father. In addition, because their father was sometimes stricter, Qin Wentian had always doted on them. Hence, they were more indulgent in front of Qin Wentian. You two are already so grown up, yet you are still relying on Uncle Qin. Zhang Ting walked over and spoke. Are we very old? Fan Yi made a face. In truth, the two of them had already grown up. They were slender and elegant. Qin Wentian smiled. He glanced at the monk from the Western world. Reverends, do you all have any guidance for me? It's still the matter of the past. The Buddhist sect naturally wouldn't be narrow-minded. If the Western world controls the heaven vault, Benefactor Qin and the others can still cultivate in it. How about this? That monk directly spoke, not beating around the bush at all. You want us to hand over the heaven vault and let you guys control it? After that, the Western world will allow us to cultivate in the heaven vault? Truly magnanimous. Fan Le laughed when he heard this. Were the faces of the Western world's Buddhists so thick? This isn't the Western world's intention. It's the thoughts of the hegemonic powers in the supreme ancient immortal realms. This is also the trend. Benefactor Qin, why must you go against the trend? The monk continued. Qin Wentian glanced at him and smiled. If Reverend came here for this matter, you can leave now. Chapter 1952. The expressions of the monks were calm. They didn't react to Qin Wentian's words. All of them pressed their palms together and spoke. Benefactor Qin, why must you be so stubborn? The heavenly Taoists have their own fate. If you go against the flow, it would be hard for you to reach the end. Baldonkey, what do you mean by this? Jun Mengchen walked over and coldly spoke as heavenly might gushed forth from him. What did it mean to go against the flow? It would be hard for you to reach the end. Was this a threat? Benefactor, there's no need to be angry. The monks were extremely calm. Qin Wentian's eyes flashed with coldness as he stared at the monks before him. Right now, the Western world and the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect temporarily maintained a state of peace, not bothering each other. But in truth, everyone knew what the future would be like for both sides. When the monks came to visit, they feigned civility. When he received them, he did the same as well. Who didn't know what they were thinking? Who were they trying to scare with the logic of the Buddhist path? Scram. Qin Wentian fell silent for a moment before he spat out a word. You came, I welcomed you. You pretended to be polite, I welcomed you politely. But since you actually dared to threaten me, I can only send you a single word. Scram. This wasn't a threat, what was? The monks pressed their palms together and bowed to Qin Wentian. After that, they spoke. Since Benefactor Qin insists on going against the flow, we can only take our leave. After speaking, they slowly turned and departed. They were neither servile nor overbearing, neither arrogant nor impatient. Their footsteps were incomparably calm. It didn't seem like they were chased away at all. These baldonkeys are truly thick-skinned. Jun Mengchen cursed in a low voice. This was simply an impenetrable fortress. They came to their territory and wanted Qin Wentian to give up the heaven vault, allowing them to control it. After that, they showed mercy and allowed Qin Wentian to cultivate in the heaven vault. After that, they threatened him, and when the threat failed, they calmly left. Their skin was so thick that it made one's hair stand on end. The Buddhist path cultivates the heart and temperament. Their temperament is truly well cultivated. Ouyang Quangshin coldly spoke, feeling extremely unhappy when he looked at these monks. These monks are really annoying. Many people cursed in a low voice, which affected their mood. Qin Wentian's eyes flickered as if he was deep in thought. This kind of enemy was even more terrifying. The tenacity of their will was rarely seen. Being thick-skinned could actually be a kind of advantage. The monks of the Western world might seem to be thick-skinned, But they were also extremely persistent in their beliefs. Even if it was wrong or absurd in the eyes of others, they felt that it should be so. Moreover, this kind of thinking was deeply rooted in their hearts, and they did not feel that there was anything wrong with it at all. There was a reason why the Western world's rule over the universe domain, and the four lower worlds was so deeply rooted. Qin Wentian stared at the horizons. A look of contemplation could be seen in his eyes. Back then, the Western world had already sent Reverend 7 abstinences here, and they should know his attitude. In fact, even the Grim Reaper appeared after that. Why did they send someone over again? Could it be that the people of the Western world really thought that after the Western world showed mercy by allowing them to cultivate in the heaven vault, they would agree to it? Or did he think that a few threatening words would be enough to make them submit? He felt somewhat puzzled. What was the true purpose of the Western world coming here this time around? Was it just a simple threat to remind them? Could it be that they want to probe the depths of the Qin heavenly divine sect? Qin Wentian silently mused. The possibility of this was very high. The Western world wanted to understand the current strength of the Qin heavenly divine sect. Also, he didn't hide anything. Qing and the others were all by his side. There was no need for him to hide anything. Although this might cause the Buddhist sect to feel trepidation and start a war wouldn't be avoided just because you were weak. If the Western world had truly made their preparations, they wouldn't be affected by the appearance of a few heavenly deities. Godfather, earlier those bald donkeys imparted to me an innate technique that can intercept immortal sense transmissions. Should I cultivate it? Fan Yi turned her gaze to Qin Wentian as she asked. These monks actually threatened her godfather? She was considering if she should cultivate their innate technique or not. They imparted you an innate technique? Qin Wentian's eyes flashed. Fan Yi nodded. Let me take a look. Qin Wentian spoke. I promised those bald donkeys that I wouldn't impart my innate technique to others. But since Godfather wants to take a look, I will naturally give it to him. However, Godfather doesn't want to cultivate it. In that case, I wouldn't be breaking my promise. Although those bald donkeys aren't good people, I still have to do what I said. Godfather, what do you think? Fan Yi asked. Yes, little Yi has done very well. Qin Wentian smiled and nodded. I won't cultivate it, but I still want to take a look at their innate technique. Don't make any mistakes when you cultivate it. Qin Wentian clearly didn't feel at ease with the Western world and wanted to check their innate technique. Right? Fan Yi nodded. After that, she transmitted the innate technique to Qin Wentian through her immortal sense. After Qin Wentian received it, he inspected it and discovered that it was indeed an innate technique. Other than this, there was nothing strange about it. Little Yi, Godfather wants to see if those monks did anything to you. Qin Wentian spoke again. Fan Yi nodded. Qin Wentian's powerful divine sense seeped into Fan Ye's mind and didn't discover any abnormalities. Only then did he set his heart at ease. There's no problem with that innate technique. Little Yi, if you want to cultivate it, just do it. Just like what Fan Yi said, although this innate technique was extremely mystical and Qin Wentian had suffered a loss in the hands of it in the past, right now, given Qin Wentian's current cultivation base, there was no longer anything strange about it. It was just a minor Tao that wasn't worth mentioning. After the people from the Western world left, they didn't stay in the heaven region and directly returned to the universe region, returning to the pure land of bliss. In the ancient temple of the Buddhist sect, the monks returned. Other than them, there were also some monks sitting cross-legged in the golden temple. Right before them, there was a Buddha statue with its back facing them. At this moment, the Buddha statue seemed to be speaking. Did you find anything? I did. During these years, many heavenly deities have appeared in the heaven vault. There's Qin Wentian's wife, Evergreen Qing'er, his demonic beast, his friend Jun Mengchen, his senior brother Divine Sound, his younger sister Bai Qing, his soulmate Princess Kitamura, and his senior Nanfeng Yaoyue. These people are all at the heavenly deity realm and quite a few of them broke through during these 2 years. A monk slowly spoke. He was none other than the monk who imparted the innate technique to Fan Yi. There should be a secret realm in the heaven vault that can change the flow of time. Right? The Buddha statue calmly spoke. Yes, the flow of time is 100 times faster than normal. This secret realm was created by Qin Wentian. However, being able to produce so many heavenly deities within these 200 years, Although their talent isn't weak, in truth, these people grew up in particle worlds. Although they were restricted by their cultivation conditions and their talent wasn't fully displayed, it's impossible for them to be so strong that they are comparable to the peak geniuses of the various hegemonic powers in the supreme ancient immortal realms. Because the greatest factor is still the cultivation environment of the heaven vault. Hence, if they were given more time, an army of heavenly deities would definitely appear in the heaven vault. That monk slowly spoke, he actually understood everything clearly. Also, the conclusion of his deduction was the same as the people in the heaven vault. He didn't underestimate the future potential of the heaven vault at all. Only by facing the strength of their opponents head-on would they have a chance to defeat them. The heaven vault is connected to the 9 heavenly layers and there are billions of constellations there. They can directly sense the heavenly Taoists and their cultivation speed would naturally be fast. It wouldn't be difficult for those with high talent to break through to the deity realm. The Buddha statue's voice was calm, it was like he wasn't shocked at all. All the monks were incomparably quiet. After that, silence filled the entire hall. Only the sound of Buddha chants could be heard occasionally. A moment later, the Buddha statue spoke again. Moon God Yuchongkong of the Ziwei Divine Court is here to pay a visit. You guys can go and meet him. You can also discuss the future matters. That monk nodded. After that, he asked, should we act? We can only stand behind the scenes and temporarily not act. The Buddha statue spoke. The monk nodded. After that, he stood up and left the ancient hall, heading to meet with Moon God Yuchongkong who just arrived in the Western world. 2 years ago, after the Ziwei Divine Court destroyed the heavenly deity mountain, there was some news that the person in charge of the Ziwei Divine Court was no longer the Ziwei Star Sovereign. Yuchongkong, who was known as the Moon God, took over. Very soon, the monks came to a place and met with the Moon God of the Ziwei Divine Court. Yuchongkong was the same as before. His countenance was extremely pale, like the skin of a corpse. It was extremely terrifying to look at. Greetings, Reverence. Yuchongkong had a faint smile on his face when he saw the monks coming. However, his smile caused people to feel uncomfortable. It was like there was an evil aura within. Benefactor Yu. The monk in the lead pressed his palms together and bowed. Benefactor, what guidance do you have for coming to our Western world? The monk asked. I heard that Reverend just came from the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect? Yuchongkong asked. The monk nodded. In that case, Reverend should already have a good plan to deal with the heaven vault. Yuchongkong smiled. His smile was extremely unfathomable. Benefactor, why do you say this? Right now, the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect is so powerful that it's hard to shake it. The monk spoke. Monks don't lie. Our goal is the same. Reverend, why don't you speak frankly? How can we deal with the heaven vault? Yuchongkong asked. That monk stared at Yuchongkong. After that, he slowly spoke. I heard that Benefactor Yu has a deep grudge with Benefactor Qin. Is there such a thing? We won't rest until one party is dead. Yuchongkong smiled and nodded. Since this is the case, if Benefactor Qin leaves the heaven vault, would Benefactor Yu be able to resolve this grudge? The monk asked. A radiant smile appeared on Yuchongkong's face as he stared at the reverend monk. These bald donkeys truly had their own methods. He understood the Western world quite well. Reverend, please speak. Yuchongkong smiled. Chapter 1953. The Qin Heavenly Divine Sect didn't change because of the arrival of the monks from the Western world. They continued to live their own lives, focusing their energy on cultivation and improving themselves. Several months passed. Within the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect, Fan Yi pestered Xian Xian. Mother, I want to go out for a walk. Go ahead. Xian Xian said. I'm talking about going outside Divine Sect. Fan Yi softly spoke. Ever since I was young, I grew up in the Divine Sect. I was either in the Heaven Vault or in the Divine Sect. I heard that the Divine Sect and Heaven Vault are both located in the Boundless Sea region. Outside the Boundless Sea region there's Boundless City, a city in the Heaven region. The Heaven region is boundlessly vast, and there are 8 regions in the supreme ancient immortal realms. In the entire world there are 33 immortal realms. The world is so vast, but I've never gone out to see it before. Lass, you truly don't know the immensity of the heavens and earth. Back then, your father and I grew up in a particle world. This particle world was merely a small corner of the divine sect. At that time, we didn't even have the extravagant hope of exiting our particle world. As for the heaven vault, it's a place everyone yearns for even in their dreams. Yet, you grew up in such an environment from young and now, you actually want to go out? Xian Xian sighed. If it wasn't for Qin Wentian, she and Fanlu might have been stuck in this particle world for their entire lives. How would they know what the scenery in the outer world was like? Mother, you also know that it's different. It's precisely because I have never seen it before that I'm curious. Although the divine sect is very vast and the heaven vault is a boundless world, the people here are all Godfather's kin, friends and subordinates. I've never seen any outsiders before and I have no idea what the scenery of other places in this world is like. It's also very rare for me to interact with strangers. Look at the little tricks of those bald donkeys from the Buddhist sect. It's already enough to shock me. I naturally want to go out and take a look. Fan Ye's voice was ethereal, filled with the innocence of a young girl. Xian Xian was speechless. This daughter of hers was extremely eloquent. However, what she said seemed to make sense. She had never seen it before, so she wanted to take a look. I don't even know how ordinary people live their lives. Sometimes I also want to see how the mortals of this world live. Why don't you guys send me out and I will temper myself? Fan Yi spoke. The outside world is very dangerous. Xian Xian persuaded. She was naturally worried about her own children. Even though Fan Yi wasn't young anymore, she was still a child in her eyes. Didn't Godfather and parents walk the same path? This is especially so for Godfather. You guys have told me so many stories about Godfather, how he grew up step by step. Could it be that I have to live under your protection forever? Fan Ye's lips twitched. Mother, if you don't agree, I will go and look for Godfather. Xian Xian glared at Fan Yi. Lass, your Godfather carries the fate of the entire divine sect on his shoulders. Don't disturb Godfather for everything. Don't be so immature. Oh. Fan Yi felt somewhat disappointed. In that case, I will go look for little rascal and get him to bring me out to play. After speaking, he smiled and left. After that, he took out a messaging crystal and spoke. Little rascal, this miss wants to see you. In the heaven vault, the lazy little rascal blinked when he heard Fan Ye's voice transmission. Little lass, call me uncle. No way. Are you coming to play with me? Fan Yi spoke. If you don't want to call me uncle, just wash up and sleep. Little rascal lazily spoke. Okay, Uncle Rascal. Quickly bring me out to play. Fan Yi giggled. Little rascal glared at her. Little lass, my skin is itching. Just you wait. Not long after, little rascal found Fan Yi. His snow-white body swayed as he walked over. He glared at Fan Yi. Lass, do you have a request for your demon god uncle? Che, if it wasn't for mother telling me not to disturb Godfather, I wouldn't even look for you. You are so fat, you don't even know if you can bring me along. Fan Yi had a look of disdain on her face. How can I be as fat as your father? Little rascal slanted his eyes as he spoke in disdain. Fatty Fanlu had always been extremely fat. You guys are about the same. Fan Yi hopped onto little rascal's back. Let's go, let's move out. Little rascal had a look of disdain on his face. After that, his body softly lay on the ground. You can do as you see fit. Clearly, the two of them often bickered and were already used to it. Although little rascal was a demon god, his personality was no different from a child. Because of Qin Wentian's doting, Fan Yi would often play with little rascal beside Qin Wentian. The two of them were definitely a match made in heaven. Uncle Rascal, when I was young, I would often ride on your back to play, but you have never brought me out before. Can you bring me to see the outside world? Fan Yi spoke in a pitiful manner. Little rascal shivered. This last changed so quickly, causing this Baobao's heart to instantly soften. Okay, this demon god will bring you out for a stroll. Sit tight. Little rascal's body transformed, instantly transforming into an incomparably gigantic golden-winged great rock. With a flap of his wings, he soared through the air with inconceivable speed. In the span of a few breaths, they left the divine sect. Before their eyes, there was only a boundless sea. Wow. Fan Yi sat on little rascal's back. Her pure and flawless eyes flashed with a hint of longing. I can finally see the outside world. Fan Ye's innocent eyes flashed with joy. Little Rascal transmitted his voice to Qin Wentian and the others. Qin Wentian wasn't too worried. Given Little Rascal's current strength, he wouldn't encounter any problems in the outside world. Right now, even a peak-stage heavenly deity from a hegemonic power might not be able to stop him. Fan Lu and Xian Xian were also very at ease with Little Rascal. Little Rascal doted on Fan Yi a lot and accompanied her as she grew up. After Ouyang Qinxin learned of this, she told Ouyang Quangxing and Jiang Ting that she also wanted to go out for a walk. However, her personality was more gentle, and she wouldn't force things. Since Ouyang Quangxing said that he would bring her out if there was a chance, she didn't say anything more. Several months later, in an ancient city in the Heaven region, a young and beautiful woman rode on a snow-white chubby demon as they walked along the streets. Her innocent eyes were filled with wonder. The cultivation bases of the people here weren't high. Most of them were only immortals. One must know that Fan Yi herself was also an immortal. When she felt the bustling atmosphere of the streets, her eyes flashed with excitement. She truly enjoyed her life during these few months. The outside world was truly very common. She met many people and encountered many things. Everything here was something that couldn't be found in the Heaven Vault. The Heaven Vault was like a big family. Great Aunt, should we return? We have already been out for a very long time, and we are about to leave the territory of the Heaven region. Little Rascal spoke in a human voice as he mumbled in a depressed manner. Uncle Rascal, we have only been out for a few months. Why are you so anxious? Look, that beautiful woman in front, isn't her figure extremely good? Where? Little Rascal's eyes gleamed with light as he stared ahead. However, he only saw an ugly woman. Hee pervert. Fan Yi mischievously laughed. The two of them continued forward, and they saw many people heading towards a certain direction. It seemed that they were heading towards an ancient temple. There are so many people there. Let's go and take a look. Fan Yi spoke. Ball Donkey Temple, what's there to see? Little Rascal mumbled. Right now, he was a demon god and didn't believe in such unorthodox things. But even so, he still listened to Fan Ye's words and walked towards the ancient temple. Within the ancient temple, many people were kneeling in worship. There were many Buddha statues here, each of them lofty, accepting the sincere worship. Little Rascal's divine sense swept out. He faintly felt that there was something wrong with this ancient temple. But when he released his divine sense, there seemed to be nothing wrong. Fan Yi followed the crowd and came to a Buddha statue. She inclined her head and stared at it while thinking in her heart, why would cultivators believe in such things? At this moment, Little Rascal's eyes flashed. That sense of unease grew increasingly intense. After that, the Buddha statues all shone with a golden light, like they were manifesting their spirits. The true Buddha is manifesting his spirit. The people in the ancient temple all knelt down. Only Little Rascal and Fan Yi remained standing. One of the Buddha statues actually spoke in a human voice. Why aren't you guys kneeling? Where did this demon come from? Little Rascal coldly spoke. There's an evil spirit in your heart. The voice rang out once more. After that, a beam of light enveloped Fan Yi. In an instant, that Buddha statue transformed into a demonic statue. Terrifying black fog descended, directly enveloping Fan Yi within. Bzzz. Little Rascal's body transformed into a bolt of lightning as he shot out. However, the Buddha statues also moved and shot towards him at the same time. Thunderous rumbling sounds echoed out. How could those Buddha statues block him? They were directly shattered into pieces, causing the entire ancient temple to explode. However, that black fog still carried Fan Yi away with inconceivably fast speed. Roar! Little Rascal let out a low-sounding roar. His speed was inconceivably fast as he chased after the black fog. But in the next instant, that black fog seemed to have pierced through space and vanished completely. Roar! Little Rascal's divine sense frenziedly expanded, enveloping the entire city. The entire city was under the terrifying pressure of divinity, but that black fog seemed to not exist at all. He couldn't find it at all. This caused Little Rascal to be extremely anxious. How could this be? Who was it that could actually bring someone away under his watch? At this moment, Qin Wentian, who was far away in the Heaven Vault, suddenly opened his eyes. A terrifying cold light gleamed as a scream of fear rang out in his mind. Godfather, save me! Little Yi. Qin Wentian transmitted his voice back, but there was no reply. Little rascal, what's going on? Qin Wentian asked Little Rascal. Something happened to the little lass. Little Rascal's voice was filled with panic. He spun madly in the air above the ancient city and told Qin Wentian everything that happened. Qin Wentian immediately stepped out of the heaven vault and exited the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect. At the same time, he angrily told his loved ones to temporarily stay in the heaven vault. He faintly sensed that things weren't so simple. Given Little Rascal's current strength, he actually couldn't find Fan Yi. How could this place be as simple as a simple divine temple? Most probably, Little Rascal was targeting him. In the Buddhist world, in an auspicious land, a monk sat cross-legged. He seemed to have opened his heavenly eyes as numerous scenes appeared in the golden space before him. These scenes were none other than what Fan Yi experienced. Karma has appeared. The monk pressed his palms together and calmly spoke. After that, he stood up and departed. Back then, when he went to the heaven vault to impart a Buddhist art to Fan Yi, he had already planted a seed of karma in Fan Ye's body. This Tao couldn't be broken. No one would be able to discover it. Chapter 1954. In a sacred hall in the Tiandao Sacred Academy, Headmaster Yi opened his eyes and stared towards the west. Before him, the three heavenly deities of the Tiandao Sacred Academy were all here. When they saw the changes in Headmaster Yi, Goddess Dugu asked, "Headmaster, did something happen?" The Karma Buddha acted. Headmaster Ye's voice was heavy. The three heavenly deities had puzzled looks on their faces. Headmaster Yi then continued, "Qin Wentian must be the same as you guys. He doesn't know what sort of existence the Karma Buddha is. Now that the Karma Buddha has appeared, something major must have happened." "Is this Buddha very powerful?" the life-governed heavenly deity asked. Headmaster Ye's expression was heavy. He nodded lightly. "One of the Buddha lords of the Western world. Qin Wentian and the others have no idea that a Buddha lord has personally paid a visit to their Qin Heavenly Divine Sect." "Headmaster, why didn't you warn Qin Wentian before this?" Goddess Dugu asked, feeling some concern. They have cultivated in the heaven vault for quite some time, and in addition to the fact that Qin Wentian was a student of the Tiandao Sacred Academy, they naturally hoped that he would be able to survive this calamity safely. Even if he reached the peak of the supreme ancient immortal realms, their Tiandao Sacred Academy would still stand tall and wouldn't fall. Also, the heaven vault wouldn't close to them. "I'm not a prophet." Headmaster Yi shook his head. "In addition, some fates are already destined. If we try to change it, there might be no more people who can transcend. This calamity isn't just a lie." The three heavenly deities nodded. They naturally believed in Headmaster Yi. It was just that their cultivation bases weren't high enough, and they had no way to comprehend the deeper meaning behind it. However, Headmaster Yi was a character who could understand fate. Most probably, he would be able to see through the secrets of this world even more clearly than them. In a small city in the heaven region, an incomparably gigantic demonic beast was howling madly in the air. Terrifying cracks could be seen in the city as countless people prostrated themselves. There were even some who were kowtowing to the gigantic demonic beast in the air. That scene was too terrifying. This was a true supreme demon god. He seemed to have suffered an intense stimulation as he roared in the air, spiraling around in circles like he had gone mad. This demon god was naturally none other than Little Rascal. At this moment he didn't know what to do. He couldn't find Fan Yi and could only roar madly. His heart was filled with anxiety. Terrifying demonic clouds manifested in the sky. It was extremely terrifying. Finally, a figure slowly walked over. This person was dressed in white and his expression was extremely cold. He was terrifying to the extreme. When the people below saw the magnificence of the white-robed figure, they all sighed in admiration. What an extraordinary character! The gigantic beast in the air stopped roaring and rushed to his side. "Can't you find it?" Qin Wentian asked. "I can't find it." Little Rascal shook his head. His eyes filled with self-blame. If it wasn't for him secretly bringing Fan Yi out, such a thing wouldn't have happened. "Wentian, it's all my fault. Will something happen to Little Yi?" Little Rascal was so anxious that he almost went crazy. His tone was filled with self-blame. He hated himself. Why did he have to bring Little Yi out? Was it because he had become a demon god that he became complacent? It has been a very long time since he felt so miserable. Don't be anxious first. Since they captured little Yi, they would definitely take the initiative to look for us. Qin Wentian spoke. How could little rascal not be anxious? His eyes turned red, gleaming with killing intent. If he knew who the culprit was, he would definitely devour the culprit alive. At this moment a black fog rose up from the ground. Qin Wentian's eyes flashed as his divine sense instantly locked onto it. After that, the black fog actually floated towards the distance, as though it was guiding him. It's this black fog. Little rascal's eyes stared fixedly in that direction. Qin Wentian stepped out, following the black fog as he advanced forward. The speed of the black fog was extremely fast, unceasingly drifting into the distance. It was unknown where it was heading to. An instant later, a human and a demon exited the city. The people in the city had no idea what was going on. Qin Wentian and the others followed the black fog. It was unknown how far they had traveled. After a very long time, Qin Wentian halted his steps and stared at the sky. Over there was a terrifying black fog that enveloped the entire space, leaving only a small opening for him to enter. It was like this opening was intentionally left for him. Roar! Little rascal's eyes flashed with a ferocious light. Qin Wentian didn't hesitate and directly stepped out. When they stepped into the black fog, the opening gradually closed, transforming into an independent world. When they stood in the black fog, they could see numerous faces appearing around them. The scene was extremely terrifying. At this moment a gigantic face appeared before them, resembling an evil devil. Where is she? Qin Wentian coldly asked. He was naturally referring to little Yi. He has long wanted to meet you. He has always wanted to devour you and his obsession is extremely strong. Now his wish can finally be realized. The gigantic face spoke in a human voice, but it didn't reply to Qin Wentian's question. Where is she? Heavenly might gushed forth from Qin Wentian. In an instant, a terrifying storm manifested in the air. Are you referring to that little girl? An evil cold smile could be seen on the face. After that, a skeleton appeared before Qin Wentian and little rascal. When Qin Wentian saw this skeleton, his heart felt like it was stabbed by countless knives. Godfather! A melodious voice rang out in Qin Wentian's mind. That innocent and radiant face, that pure and flawless smile. She who grew up in the heaven vault and the divine sect was intelligent, pure, and a little mischievous. But why did she get involved in this dispute? Why did she have to drag a little girl into this? He closed his eyes, not daring to look at the skeleton. Tears flowed down the corners of his eyes, but right now, there was only the figure of the little girl in his mind. She was like a fairy dancing in front of him. He could still remember the happy smiles on Fan Lu and Xian Xian's faces when she was born. He could still remember the first time this little girl called him godfather. At this moment his heart felt like it was being sliced by knives. Roar! A heaven-shaking roar shook the heavens and earth. An incomparably baleful golden gigantic beast appeared. Its body was incomparably gigantic, and the lines on its body exuded a fearsome might. It roared at the sky as terrifying flames burned in its golden eyes, capable of incinerating everything. The person who accompanied Fan Yi the most, other than her parents, wasn't Qin Wentian. Little rascal was the one who accompanied Fan Yi the most. The two young girls would always play with him and ride on his back, feeling so happy. Even though he was a demon god, he was still willing to let them ride on his back, bringing them along to roam the world. But now that little girl died because of him. He was the one who brought her out. This was all his fault. He thought that he would be able to face any changes. He thought that there wouldn't be such a coincidence. But naturally this wasn't an accident at all. Roar, roar, roar. Little rascal howled in rage, causing the entire sky to tremble. Boundless black fog frenziedly gushed into his mouth as the countless faces were all swallowed into his stomach. The black fog transformed into a black vortex that flowed unceasingly into his mouth. It was as though he wanted to devour this entire world. Qin Wentian. A voice rang out. After that, below the gigantic face in the sky, another face appeared. This face was pale, it was none other than Yu Changkong's face. The space around Qin Wentian seemed to be trembling. His aura transformed into a terrifying storm that could erupt at any moment. It has been a long time since we last met. How about this meeting gift? An evil smile appeared on Yu Changkong's face. A destructive spatial storm manifested in the sky, unceasingly lacerating the black fog as well as the faces. However, the black fog seemed to be endless. There was no end to it. Is it the Western world? Qin Wentian inclined his head. Tears could still be seen in his eyes. His gaze was so cold that it caused people to feel a sense of terror, so cold that it felt like hell itself. After Little Rascal brought Little Yi out, he transmitted his voice to Qin Wentian. He also felt that there shouldn't be any problems. Even if someone was staring at them, Little Rascal would be able to sense it and would immediately return. But nothing happened. Little Rascal and Little Yi played outside for a very long time and nothing happened. Until one day something happened. Could this be a coincidence? It was impossible. In that case, only the Western world could have gone to the Heaven Vault before. However, Qin Wentian had once personally investigated Fan Ye's situation because he was worried. There were no problems at all. If not, he would definitely protect Fan Yi well. Yet, something still happened to Fan Yi. This indicated that he was wrong. Ha! Yu Changkong laughed evilly. The countless faces in the surroundings all laughed at the same time, like they were mocking Qin Wentian's ignorance. The giant face behind Yu Changkong stared at Qin Wentian and mocked. Do you think that other than the Western world, who else would be able to handle things so perfectly? Yu Changkong admires you very much and treated you as his destined enemy. However, from my point of view, you are merely SOSO. You basically don't understand the Western world and have no idea how terrifying they are. When they entered your Heaven Vault, I already knew that the calamity of the Heaven Vault has begun. No one would be able to stop it unless, that giant face paused for a moment before continuing, unless when the bald donkeys from the Western world entered your Qin Heavenly Divine sect, you guys directly killed them. Sadly, it's impossible for you guys to do so. Hence, the calamity is already destined. Also, this is merely the beginning. Do you guys think that the Western world is so easy to deal with? As though to prove his words, in the Qin Heavenly Divine sect, Xian Xian, who was in the midst of cultivation, suddenly opened her eyes. Her vision was blurry. Her beautiful eyes were filled with tears. Her heart was filled with pain. Fan Lu was the same as well. At this moment his heart was filled with pain. They both sensed that something had happened to their daughter. Also, their daughter was summoning them. It was unknown when the two of them walked together. When they saw the tears in each other's eyes, they both had a bad premonition. This feeling was so wondrous. All of these scenes appeared at the same time in the Western world. In the Buddhist sect, in the golden sky, that monk calmly sat on a praying mat, watching everything that happened. The Tao of Karma circulated. Everyone who had a karmic connection with Fan Yi would all enter the Tao. It was like there was a mysterious force of karma that was guiding everything. Chapter 1955. Within the black fog, the gigantic face floated behind Yu Changkong, exuding malevolence. How do you want to deal with him? At this moment the gigantic face asked Yu Changkong. Nourishment. Yu Changkong only replied with 2 words. This was what he wanted to do the most. Wasn't Qin Wentian very strong? Once Qin Wentian humiliated him, causing his face to fall to the ground, seizing all of his glory. How would Qin Wentian repay all of this? Nourishment. He wanted Qin Wentian to become his nourishment. Only then would everything end. Fine, let's do it. That gigantic face laughed evilly. In an instant, boundless black fog and countless heads gushed towards Qin Wentian, wanting to devour him whole. Each of the heads transformed into an evil devil, wanting to devour Qin Wentian's flesh and blood. Qin Wentian's pitch-black eyes flashed with boundless killing intent. He pulled out his sword as the humming of his sword filled the air. In an instant, boundless spacetime sword intent gushed forth, enveloping him. Boundless sword light radiated from him as Qin Wentian took a step out. His silhouette vanished from his original location as he moved towards Yu Changkong. A debt of blood must be repaid in blood. The densely packed heads directly flew over, latching onto the sword screen, devouring it bit by bit. Naturally, the heads were also being torn apart by the sword intent. However, there was no end to these heads. If this continued on, the sword screen would be devoured clean sooner or later. Qin Wentian's palm slashed out, manifesting a space-time sword river that blocked all the evil energy. Those heads had no way to get close to Qin Wentian. You have some attainments. The evil smile on the gigantic face grew even more intense. After that, countless illusory figures appeared in the surroundings of the gigantic face. These figures were formed from the skulls of the gigantic face. Each of the skulls was a vengeful spirit, filled with intense hatred. At this moment, these vengeful spirits transformed into a terrifying will energy, formless and formless. When Qin Wentian stared ahead, he felt a surge of energy affecting his soul. Godfather. A face appeared in his mind. Little Yi. Qin Wentian's heart trembled. That was Fan Ye's face. She had a radiant smile on her face. But very swiftly, her face changed, becoming malevolent and terrifying. Her face was covered in blood as she coldly stared at him. Godfather, you are the one who caused my death. You are the one who caused my death. Qin Wentian's heart was in pain. Of course, he knew that these were all illusions, but he still felt so strongly that his soul was under attack. Then faces kept appearing and changing in Qin Wentian's mind. Qin Wentian, it was you who caused our deaths. It was you who allowed Yu Changkong to grow to where he is today. It's all your fault. These dreadful resentments turned into a terrifying power, and Qin Wentian's soul was being tortured and interrogated by the resentment. There were tears in the corners of Qin Wentian's eyes, but his eyes were still so tough and cold, revealing an extremely strong killing intent. Kill! Qin Wentian spat out a word. The undying scripture manifested a soul sword Dao that pierced through the countless faces, destroying the resentment. Boom! An incomparably terrifying resentment god appeared, exuding immense resentment as it clashed against Qin Wentian's soul sword Dao. Yu Changkong had devoured countless experts and actually refined their resentment to strengthen himself. This resentment god was now able to attack Qin Wentian's soul and heart. This old friend of yours has cultivated a soul art, and his soul energy is extremely powerful. Seems like I still have to spend some effort to devour him and use him as nourishment. That gigantic face spoke to Yu Changkong. Are you not going to act yourself? My strength is gradually being imparted to you, and in the end, all of it will belong to you. Yu Changkong nodded. Although he didn't really like this spirit from his previous life, this fellow was truly very powerful. His methods were heaven-shaking, far more powerful compared to the current him. He could refine all the negative energy in the world for his own use. In addition, the higher his cultivation base, the more terrifying he would be. Behind Yu Changkong, a terrifying black hole appeared, resembling the mouth of an evil god. A heaven-shaking roar rang out as the black hole extended outwards, devouring everything. Qin Wentian's body was moving towards Qin Wentian. It was like he wanted to devour Qin Wentian whole. Little rascal's gigantic body soared up into the sky. His eyes were cold to the extreme as he similarly roared. The heaven-devouring titanic beast could devour the heavens and earth, the sun, moon and constellations. The two terrifying devouring energies clashed against each other, causing the space between them to crumble apart. Wentian, Wentian. In his heart there seemed to be someone calling out to him. Qin Wentian's heart trembled. It was none other than Fan Lu and Xian Xan. Why did you want to kill little Yi? You are her godfather, why didn't you protect her and allowed her to die? Their voices seemed to be interrogating Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian felt incomparable guilt in his heart as a look of agony appeared on his face. It's a heart devil, you have to be careful. In his mind a voice reminded him. This was the will of the Skybreak heavenly deity. It had always existed in Qin Wentian's mind. Heart devil? Many thoughts flashed through Qin Wentian's mind. Fan Lu and Xian Xan were interrogating him. Qing'er and Qingcheng were also interrogating him. Numerous familiar faces appeared in his mind. All of them were his kin. However, all of them seemed to be unhappy with him. Yu Changkong has already transformed into an evil devil. He seems to be able to control all negative energy in the world. Your will has to be strong enough or you will die without a burial ground. If that's the case, the Heaven Vault and the Divine Sect would truly be finished. The Skybreak heavenly deity reminded. Arg! Qin Wentian roared. His space-time Dao gushed forth, wanting to stop the flow of time. However, how could the resentment and heart devil stop? The heart devil transformed into a devil god, unceasingly interrogating his heart. In the air, the black mist churned frenziedly. Countless heads and faces could be seen. The gigantic face breathed out, and instantly, within the countless heads and faces, strands of black light flashed, congregating unceasingly. Faintly, an incomparably terrifying weapon manifested. This weapon was in the form of a long spear, and exuded a boundless killing intent. This was a spear formed from the remnant killing intent of countless dead spirits. The terrifying killing intent it exuded was sufficient to annihilate all heavenly deities in this world. Just like what the Skybreak heavenly deity reminded him, the current Yuchongkong and his past self could use all sorts of terrifying negative energy. From this, one could very well imagine how evil Yuchongkong's past self was. After the heavenly deities of the Ziwei Divine Court guessed his identity, they directly submitted, not daring to doubt him. How many people could possess such terrifying might since ancient times? But at this moment in the air, a beam of light pierced through the black fog, landing behind Qin Wentian. After that, the pure light grew more and more dazzling. In the air, there seemed to be countless ancient Buddhas chanting sutras. Behind Qin Wentian, a supreme ancient Buddha appeared. That was an astral soul. Against evil energy, some of the Buddhist techniques were often the most suitable. However, the Buddhist cultivators of the Western world didn't have a merciful heart. They didn't use these techniques to deal with evil. Instead, they did evil things. In the world, there was no such thing as good or bad. Good or evil, it didn't matter if one was a Buddha or a devil. During these years, Qin Wentian naturally didn't waste it. He tried to condense astral souls from the 9 heavenly layers. The power of those astral souls was beyond his imagination. But Qin Wentian would choose to comprehend the Tao. At this moment, he summoned his Buddha Tao astral soul to suppress all evil. An incomparably resplendent holy light radiated from his Buddha body. Within the Buddhic light, there seemed to be the power of light fused into it. The truth was indeed so. This Tao didn't only contain Buddha Tao energy, it also contained the power of light, space-time and bloodline, fusing them together to form a supremely powerful Tao, the World Purification Tao. As the Tao manifested, this land of evil transformed into a holy land. Everywhere the holy light passed by, all evil was directly purified. Resentment gods, heart devils, all of them had no way to invade his body. Countless heads that got close to Qin Wentian were all purified, turning into ashes. When the light shone on Yuchongkong's pale face, Yuchongkong's skin felt like it was about to be purified. His silhouette flickered as he retreated, hiding in the black mist. As for the black fog, numerous holes appeared in it, as though it was being torn apart bit by bit. You actually cultivate the Tao of the Buddhist path? That gigantic face coldly spoke. The energy he cultivated was an extreme evil energy in the world. It was indeed somewhat countered by the Buddhist path. There's no gate to the Tao. Qin Wentian coldly spoke. Right now, the Buddhist path in the world referred to the Western world. However, he didn't admit that the Western world could represent the Buddhist path. This was the Buddhist Tao, there was no gate to the Tao. Buddha should be compassionate, yet the Western world actually used the Tao of compassion to do cruel things. Haha, interesting. I finally know why my original self in this life is so stubborn towards you. Even I feel an intense interest in you. That gigantic face coldly spoke. If it was in the past, Qin Wentian would definitely be shocked if he knew that Yuchongkong had a previous self. But now there was only hatred in his heart. As for whether Yuchongkong was a human or a ghost, a demon or a devil, he didn't care at all. He only wanted Yuchongkong to die. Die! That gigantic face coldly spoke. Boundless killing intent converged into a spear that arced through the air, shooting towards Qin Wentian. A terrifying storm of slaughter manifested in the air, wanting to annihilate everything in its path with a single strike. An incomparably holy light radiated from his sword. Qin Wentian brandished his sword. This sword strike radiated holy light, manifesting world-purifying sword light that clashed against the slaughter god's spear. The sky trembled as both the sword and the spear were torn apart, destroyed. This wasn't the end. Qin Wentian radiated boundless holy sword light. With a wave of his finger, he unleashed all of it, aiming for the gigantic face. I didn't expect this. That gigantic face flickered. The sword light arrived and the head directly exploded. After that, the black fog in the sky was also destroyed by the sword light as the black fog fled in all directions. Qin Wentian's eyes were extremely cold. Beams of holy light chased after the black fog. He didn't want to let any of it escape. "Do you want to kill me?" From the void, a voice drifted over. "I didn't die countless years ago. How can you kill me? In the future we will meet again." In the Western world, the Karma Buddha saw everything. His expression was as calm as ever, exuding an unfathomable depth. How can evil win against Buddha? Sadly, you didn't join my Buddhist path. He spoke in a light voice, as though he felt pity for Qin Wentian. Chapter 1956. Yu Changkong fled, vanishing without a trace. Qin Wentian's divine sense enveloped the entire space, but it was useless. The current Yu Changkong has awakened his past life. His strength was unfathomable, and he became one of the evilest existences in the world. All the Taoists he cultivated were evil and sinister. All the negative energy in the world was used by him. He devoured others, giving birth to hatred and killing intent. He attacked the souls and bodies of others. From the air a skeleton fell down. Qin Wentian trembled as he stretched out his hand and caught it. Little Rascal's body was trembling as well. He howled in a low voice as tears flowed unceasingly in his large eyes. "Arr!" Little Rascal let out a human-like howl. It was no longer the howl of a pure demonic beast. He inclined his head and stared at the sky as a terrifying luster circulated around him, growing brighter and brighter. His body grew larger and larger as a crown appeared on his head. His gigantic body shone with resplendent runic patterns as the baleful aura in the surroundings grew even more terrifying. This entire space seemed to be enveloped by the baleful aura, but everyone, including him and Qin Wentian, didn't seem to feel it at all. A jade-green light flashed as the light of life seeped into the skeleton, reconstructing its body bit by bit until the beautiful young girl appeared before him once again. Staring at the young girl who was quietly lying on the ground, Qin Wentian lowered his head and lightly kissed her forehead. Tears flowed from the corners of his eyes, dripping onto her youthful face. "Little Yi, Godfather will definitely make those people go to hell. I guarantee it." Qin Wentian seemed to be smiling. At the same time as his tears flowed, he also seemed to be smiling. A hoarse roar rang out from Little Rascal's mouth. His body soared up into the air, directly soaring into the clouds and vanishing without a trace. It was unknown how far he went. Qin Wentian hugged the cold body. He didn't make any movements, but he vanished from his original location. Below, countless people inclined their heads, but they could no longer see where he was. It was unknown how far he could travel with a single thought. Who? The hearts of countless people below trembled. The battle they witnessed earlier, the main characters were Qin Wentian, whose name shook the supreme ancient immortal realms, as well as moon god Yu Changkong of the Ziwei Divine Court. In the mystic region, the Ziwei Divine Court was a floating divine court that stood tall in an ancient city. It was incomparably majestic and exuded a majestic aura. Within the divine court there were countless experts. There were also terrifying divine knights that roamed the world within the divine court, maintaining order. After all, a power like the Ziwei Divine Court was comparable to an entire world. It was unknown how vast it was. At this moment, a group of knights from the Ziwei Divine Court was patrolling the area. However, at that moment they heard a rumble and felt the divine court trembling. They frowned slightly and looked up into the void. Among them, a powerful divine court knight roared. "Who dares to be so insolent?" As the sound of his voice faded, a beam of light descended, followed by a deafening sound. It was as if a gigantic golden object had directly pierced into the divine court, slashing through his body. Not only him, but the entire team of divine court knights were all slashed by that terrifying golden light. In an instant, their bodies were pierced into the divine court along with that beam of golden light. Fresh blood flowed unceasingly from their wounds. Rumbling sounds rang out as cracks appeared on the ground. All the experts in the Ziwei Divine Court felt this incomparably intense tremor. All of them inclined their heads and stared at the sky, their eyes filled with rage as an intense killing intent flashed in their eyes. However, at the next instant, the cold killing intent in their eyes was replaced by a deep sense of fear. When they inclined their heads, they didn't see any human figures. They only saw golden light that filled the sky. Each beam of golden light seemed to be the same as the killing energy that slashed down earlier. It was a pair of golden wings. At this moment, the entire sky was filled with golden wings. Who dares to behave atrociously in the Ziwei divine court? A roar of rage rang out as terrifying heavenly might gushed forth. But at the same time, some golden wings slashed down as countless screams of misery rang out. In the Ziwei divine court, numerous buildings collapsed. It was unknown how many screams of shock and fear could be heard. The heavenly deities of the Ziwei divine court acted. They stood in the airspace above the Ziwei divine court and worked together to create a divine diagram that blocked the terrifying killing energy descending from the sky. The sky dimmed as an incomparably gigantic figure appeared. There was a crown on his head and his entire body radiated an incomparably baleful aura. What demon-level character is this? The eyes of a heavenly deity flashed. This person actually dared to behave so atrociously in front of them, destroying their divine sect. This was simply unbridled. Only to see that the eyes of this demonic beast were extremely baleful. His body continued to grow larger and larger. His might enveloped the entire Ziwei divine court, causing the people here to tremble. They truly felt fear. This gigantic demon that blotted out the sun was simply unimaginably powerful. It seems to be Qin Wentian's heaven-devouring beast. A heavenly deity from the Ziwei divine court spoke. This heaven-devouring beast seemed to have changed, becoming different. It was unknown how much larger it was, and the aura it exuded changed as well. In fact, even the heavenly deities couldn't recognize it at first glance. The gigantic beast in the air opened its mouth and let out a heaven-shaking roar. In an instant, a supreme heavenly might enveloped the entire area. The boundlessly vast Ziwei divine court started to tremble as numerous buildings fluttered in the wind, moving as fast as lightning. No, what's going on? No. Someone's body trembled uncontrollably. After that, an incomparably terrifying devouring energy bore down on him as he directly flew towards the malevolent-looking mouth in the air. Rumble! Numerous incomparably sturdy buildings were uprooted, and were also flying towards the mouth of the gigantic beast. The earth trembled. The people on the ground were all filled with terror. They didn't dare to believe everything they saw. The heavens collapsed and the earth split apart. Using these words to describe this scene, it was simply too suitable. The buildings that the Ziwei divine court was so proud of were uprooted and flew up into the air, flying towards the gigantic vortex that enveloped the sky. Heaven-devouring beasts could devour the heavens and earth, the sun, moon, and constellations. This wasn't just a legend. Flee! A heavenly deity from the Ziwei divine court roared. He felt that this was a calamity for the Ziwei divine court. Was Qin Wentian finally going to act against the Ziwei divine court? Qin Wentian's demonic beast had already arrived. Where was Qin Wentian? Why did they want to act against the Ziwei divine court? Also, this heaven-devouring beast was so impudent the moment it arrived. It was like it had an incomparably deep hatred and wanted to disregard all costs to destroy the Ziwei divine court. As the gigantic mouth in the air opened, the entire Ziwei divine court seemed to be uprooted. It gradually floated up and flew towards that gigantic mouth. Arg! Someone screamed in fear. Countless gazes stared at the heavenly deities of the Ziwei divine court, who were also floating up into the air. A heavenly deity wielded an astral sword and stabbed it towards Little Rascal's gigantic body. The astral sword light pierced through the sky, penetrating everything. If they still didn't act, the Ziwei divine court would most probably be devoured. A storm suddenly appeared in the air. That heavenly deity felt his entire body turning cold. In the next instant, a figure appeared before him, teleporting over. With just a single glance, that heavenly deity seemed to have fallen into a trap, entering the world controlled by that expert. That person waved his hand and slashed out a sword as well. This sword seemed to come from beyond the heavens. That heavenly deity didn't even have time to react and was directly slashed through the center of his brows. Fresh blood flowed out, and only after that heavenly deity collapsed did his blood seep out. A heavenly deity was killed with a single sword strike. The Ziwei divine court star sovereign stood below. He walked out from the group of heavenly deities and stared at the countless buildings and figures flying up into the sky. He then turned his gaze up to Qin Wentian, Qin Wentian, why are you doing this? Where's Yu Changkong? Qin Wentian coldly asked. His divine sense swept out, but he couldn't find Yu Changkong. However, the other heavenly deities of the Ziwei divine court were all here. I have no idea. The Ziwei star sovereign shook his head. He truly didn't know where Yu Changkong was. There's no longer a need for the Ziwei divine court to exist. Qin Wentian softly spoke. His voice was so calm that there were no emotions at all. It was like he was announcing the fate of the Ziwei divine court. The Ziwei star sovereign and the other heavenly deities all had cold expressions of rage on their faces. Qin Wentian came here alone with his demonic beast. Did he want to destroy the Ziwei divine court? This Qin Wentian's tone was a little too arrogant. However, right now, the existence of Qin Wentian's demonic beast was even more terrifying compared to Qin Wentian. He wanted to devour the entire Ziwei divine court. Chapter 1957. What did Yu Changkong do? The experts of the Ziwei divine court silently mused. Right now, Yu Changkong was already the controller of the Ziwei divine court, and was known as the moon god. He basically wouldn't tell the Ziwei divine court what he did. Hence, the people of the Ziwei divine court still didn't know why Qin Wentian was so angry. Why would Qin Wentian be so angry and kill his way to the Ziwei divine court? However, they didn't have the time to care about this now. The heaven-devouring beast swallowed the entire sky. The Ziwei divine court was uprooted. It was like a vast city being uprooted, gradually floating in the air. The collapsed buildings also floated there and were sucked into the giant mouth. The people in the Ziwei divine court also had no way to escape. They struggled madly, but there was an incomparably terrifying devouring force pulling at them. No one could resist this force, it was simply too powerful. Ziwei divine sword. The Ziwei star sovereign spoke. After that, the heavenly deities of the Ziwei divine court each took a position and released their astral souls. In an instant, they formed a connection with the 9 heavenly layers as a terrifying Ziwei divine formation appeared. In the starry space, the Ziwei constellation lit up, and after that, boundless astral light shot down from the sky, transforming into a meteor shower. This city suddenly turned into night. There was no longer a sun. The 9 heavenly layers floated in the air, filled with boundlessly resplendent constellations. The beams of astral light transformed into the purple myrtle divine sword, shooting down from the sky. 1,000,000,000,000 beams of sword light cascaded downwards. In the center, there were 7 beams of light that illuminated Yikong, summoning the millions upon millions of swords that descended vertically, aiming for the gigantic body of the heaven-devouring beast, as well as Qin Wentian. There were countless people in the city. They inclined their heads and stared at the sky. That gigantic beast was simply too terrifying. It was like a supreme demon god, swallowing the entire city into its mouth. In the air above it, the Ziwei divine sword slashed down, wanting to kill it. Qin Wentian stepped out, wanting to help Little Rascal. You go kill them, leave this place to me. Little Rascal let out a low-sounding roar. Qin Wentian nodded. His anger was towering up into the sky because of Little Ye's death, but he didn't completely lose his ability to think. Little Rascal seemed to have undergone a transformation, becoming even stronger than before. Right now he was like a king of space, a paragon among demons. Qin Wentian stepped out, walking towards the heavenly deities controlling the Ziwei divine swords. Resplendent world-purifying light radiated from him, transcending space-time and directly enveloping the Ziwei divine court's deities. Some heavenly deities were disintegrated under the world-purifying light. They lowered their heads in shock and stared at their bodies, staring at Qin Wentian. The world purification Tao could restrain all evil powers, but that was not all. This was an extremely powerful Tao art divine ability that could purify everything in the world. Moreover, its destructive power against evil arts was even stronger, because it contained Buddhist attributes. Ras Qin, a heavenly deity, roared in rage. The Tao energy in their surroundings was purified. They couldn't block Qin Wentian's attacks at all. During these years, how much stronger was Qin Wentian compared to back then? Could it be that heavenly deities couldn't even withstand a single strike from him? Yu Changkong shouldn't have existed in this world since long ago. However, the Ziwei divine court protected him time and time again, causing him to live until now, becoming a scourge to all living beings. In addition, the entire Ziwei Divine Court was under his control, becoming a tool for Yu Changkong to kill. Since this was the case, he would cleanse the Ziwei Divine Court from the afterlife. Even if he had to bear all the sins of the Ziwei Divine Court, he would bear all the consequences. Under the world-purifying light, the bodies of the heavenly deities continued to dissipate, like they were about to turn into ashes. No. A heavenly deity had an incomparably terrified look on his face as he howled madly. However, it was useless. Their bodies continued to vanish until they turned into nothingness. Their souls dissipated, completely vanishing from this world. In this world, out of all the heavenly deities of the Ziwei Divine Court, only a single heavenly deity remained. It was none other than the star sovereign of the Ziwei Divine Court. His strength was the strongest and he was still resisting Qin Wentian's world-purifying light. As for the millions of beams of sword light in the air, they were all blocked by Little Rascal's gigantic body. His body blotted out the sky as a boundless divine glow radiated from him. The golden scales on his body seemed to contain a fearsome might within. When ordinary sword beams slashed down, they actually couldn't move his body in the slightest. From this, one could see how tough his body was. It was simply unshakable. When the 7 giant swords fell on his back, the feathers on his back seemed to transform into a super spell formation. It turned into a huge mouth in the starry sky, causing the giant swords to sink in bit by bit, and gradually be swallowed up. The Ziwei Divine Sword was actually devoured by his body. Little Rascal's body was no longer purely made of flesh and blood. It was more like an incomparably deep black hole that had numerous divine formation diagrams on it. The majestic Ziwei Divine Court was like a terrifying ancient city that gradually sank into the gigantic mouth in the sky. Below, countless people felt fear in their hearts. Qin Wentian's demonic beast companion was like a beast king in space right now. He could devour an entire city and the Ziwei Divine Court. This was simply too terrifying. Some of them have seen divine formations before, but even they weren't as shocked as this scene. At this moment, everyone was thinking in their hearts. Back then, when the Ziwei Divine Court destroyed the heavenly deity mountain, did they ever think that they would be destroyed one day as well? The Ziwei Star Sovereign's body trembled lightly. Despite his strength, he still felt fear and helplessness in his heart. Regardless of Qin Wentian or Little Rascal, both of them were so powerful that he felt fear in his heart. The Ziwei Divine Court was finished. He hated himself a little. Yu Changkong didn't bring the Ziwei Divine Court to the peak. The Ziwei Divine Court was destroyed because of him. If he knew this would happen, he wouldn't have spared Yu Changkong. Back then, when Yu Changkong devoured his master, he shouldn't have spared him, causing today's calamity, burying the entire Ziwei Divine Court. Qin Wentian, this is a great sin. Since you used the power of the Buddha Tao, are you not afraid of retribution for your sins? The Ziwei Star Sovereign coldly spoke. Qin Wentian's eyes were like ice as he stared at the Ziwei Star Sovereign. After that, he swept his gaze towards the surroundings as he coldly spoke. If the people of the world kill my loved ones, I will bury the entire heavens. All sins, all tribulations, I will bear them all alone. As the sound of his voice faded, Qin Wentian took a step forward, moving towards the Ziwei Star Sovereign. With a single glance, he saw a world manifested by the Tao. Time and space froze, sealing all life. Behind the Ziwei Star Sovereign, a starry world appeared. The Ziwei Star shone resplendently, radiating boundless astral light. He controlled the constellation. Kill! The Ziwei Star Sovereign coldly spoke. The boundless astral light transformed into an astral killing formation. Boundless beams of light intersected with Qin Wentian at the center, wanting to tear Qin Wentian into 1,000 pieces. A space-time storm manifested around Qin Wentian, wanting to devour all the killing light in the starry space. However, the killing formation seemed to be connected into a straight line. Countless lines were formed, directly tearing everything apart. Even if it was a space-time black hole, everything was torn apart. Even if it was a world of void, it would also be destroyed. How fast were the rays of light from the killing formation? Just as they were about to land on Qin Wentian's world-purifying light was as resplendent as ever. The boundless rays of light clashed against the killing formation, causing the entire sky to freeze. Life stopped. Qin Wentian spoke. His other Dao art was still being used on the Ziwei Star Sovereign. Qin Wentian's greatest advantage was that he was proficient in many different types of Dao arts. Not only that, each of these Dao arts were extremely powerful and could stand on their own. When these Dao arts were unleashed by a single person, how terrifying would the effect be? There were a myriad of great Das. For someone who could control a powerful Dao and cultivate it to the extreme, they would be able to dominate an entire region. However, Qin Wentian had an advantage in terms of talent. He could commune with countless constellations, and he could comprehend any Dao art he wanted. The light from the killing formation gradually grew weaker and dimmer. The Ziwei Star Sovereign felt his life and his strength being sealed bit by bit. Time and space were frozen, even his life was about to be frozen. The power of his Dao art grew weaker, and finally, the killing formation could no longer block the world-purifying Dao. The light from the killing formation flowed in reverse and shot towards him. At this instant, the Ziwei Star Sovereign opened his eyes. He inclined his head and stared at the boundless starry space. There was no fear in his eyes, only a trace of reluctance. In the end, he still didn't have the chance to pursue the secrets of the 9 heavens. Today he, the Ziwei Star Sovereign, would die here. Calamity of the supreme ancient immortal realms. In the end, heavenly deities turned into bones. Who will be the controller of the 9 heavens? The Ziwei Star Sovereign let out a sigh. His voice rang out through the world. After that, his body was engulfed by the light as he vanished bit by bit. Calamity of the supreme ancient immortal realms. The hearts of everyone trembled, feeling a sense of sorrow. The divine Ox clan of the desolate region, the heavenly deity mountain of the mystic region, and the Ziwei divine court were all destroyed one after another. These hegemonic powers that once dominated an entire region were all reduced to dust. The Qin clan was weakened. They no longer had their past glory. The demon god mountain migrated. The Luotian mountain split apart. The war between the Western world and the Heaven Vault has yet to truly erupt. This was truly a calamity. In the end, heavenly deities turned into bones. Peak characters of the supreme ancient immortal realms, heavenly deities that only appeared once out of countless lives, all died one after another. Was this the sorrow of this era? Or could it be that this was a new beginning? The ending point of a calamity would always be a new starting point. Who would be the controller of the 9 heavens? The Ziwei divine court no longer exists. The hearts of the people of the world were unable to calm down. A man and a demonic beast descended from the sky, destroying the Ziwei divine court and killing the Ziwei Star Sovereign. That demonic beast roared in rage, wanting to devour the heavens and earth. He was like a king of space beasts. That man exuded magnificence through the generations. His glory in the supreme ancient immortal realms was unparalleled. Even the space beast king was his demonic beast companion. Such a combination was sufficient to cause any hegemonic power in the supreme ancient immortal realms to tremble. That young man said that if the people of the world killed his loved ones, he would bury the heavens. Was this a warning? His loved ones died in the hands of the Ziwei divine court? In the hands of Yu Changkong? He wanted to warn those hegemonic powers, warn the people of the world that whoever killed his loved ones, he would bury the heavens. Even if he was consigned to eternal damnation, he wouldn't hesitate. Chapter 1958. In the sky, the tempest from the battle calmed down. A light breeze gusted by, bringing with it a slight chill. Although he destroyed the Ziwei divine court, Qin Wentian didn't feel relaxed at all. He didn't feel any joy at all. There was only sorrow in his heart. The calamity of the supreme ancient immortal realms was caused by him. Everything should have been borne by him. However, it was precisely because his cultivation base was too strong that the people of the supreme ancient immortal realms thought of ways to act against the people around him, implicating Little Yi. Little Rascal's gigantic body was still there. His baleful gaze swept through the surroundings. He wanted to kill Yu Changkong, but Yu Changkong had already fled. Other than Yu Changkong, Qin Wentian also knew that the main culprit was someone else. It was none other than the Western world. At this moment in the Western world, the Karma Buddha was watching everything that happened here. When he saw Qin Wentian and Little Rascal destroying the Ziwei divine court, he pressed his palms together and chanted Buddhist chants. Qin Wentian was extraordinary. His talent was unrivaled in the world. Right now, he discovered that the demonic beast beside him also seemed to have an extraordinary origin. Sadly, through the karma between him and Fan Yi, he wasn't able to see through it. He could only see the scenes that happened over there. Far away in the Ziwei divine court of the mystic region, Qin Wentian felt a strange feeling. It was like he was being spied on. His gaze turned to the west as his eyes gleamed with a terrifying light. His deep gaze seemed to be able to penetrate through space and time, staring at an unknown place. Over there he saw an illusory figure. That figure was a little blurry, but he could still tell that it was a Buddha. This ancient Buddha seemed to be the source of karma, staring at him. "Is that you?" Qin Wentian spoke. He faintly sensed that this was none other than the Buddha cultivator from the Western world, who once came to the Qin heavenly divine sect. At this moment, in the Western world far away, the Karma Buddha heard Qin Wentian's question. However, he didn't reply and only calmly stared at him. That was him, but also not him. That was his karma force born from the Tao. For those who had a karmic connection with Fan Yi, they would all be able to enter the Tao. Also, depending on how high one's cultivation base was, one's ability to withstand the Tao would be different. Qin Wentian was extremely powerful, because he could even pry into the karmic power of karma, and see the power of nothingness that existed in the unseen world. Because of that, he could speak to him. "You don't even have the right to go to hell." Qin Wentian's voice was so calm yet so cold. He knew that he had underestimated the Buddhist cultivator, who once came to the Qin heavenly divine sect. That Buddhist cultivator was much stronger compared to 7 abstinences, and had a terrifying ability that was unfathomable. He used unknown methods to influence Little Ye's actions. In fact, even Qin Wentian couldn't detect it. What was even more terrifying was that Little Yi herself had no way to sense it. Little Rascal came out together with her, and couldn't sense anything strange about her. This meant that when that mysterious power acted on Little Ye's fate was already sealed. There was no way to change it. As the sound of Qin Wentian's voice faded, a surge of energy gushed into the void, destroying the illusory Buddha figure. After that, the feeling of being spied on vanished. The Karma Buddha of the Western world closed his eyes and chanted a Buddhist chant. Qin Wentian's voice was extremely cold, like he really wanted to make sure that the Karma Buddha wouldn't be able to enter hell. Although he was the Karma Buddha, in truth, even he himself didn't know what would happen in the future. He only knew that when the Tao of Karma manifested on Fan Yi, karma was already formed between him and the Qin heavenly divine sect. Regardless of the people around Fan Yi or himself, all of them had already entered the Tao. Since they have already entered the Tao, they naturally had to continue walking down this path. There was no way to stop the chess game of karma. Qin Wentian could destroy karma force, but this didn't mean that others would be able to do so as well. Fan Ye's parents, Fan Lu and Xian Xian, their cultivation bases were still too far away. In the Heaven Vault, Fan Lu and Xian Xian already knew that their daughter, Fan Yi, had already died. Although they didn't see it with their own eyes and didn't ask about it, their faintly discernible feeling was so strong that they felt that there was no mistake. It was like they had seen it with their own eyes. In fact, they knew who killed their daughter. It was a monk from the Buddhist sect in the Western world. Also, it was a reverend monk with supreme innate techniques. They were filled with sorrow and despair. Their tears had already turned into empty air. They wanted to leave the Heaven Vault, but the Heaven Vault was already closed. They couldn't exit, and Qin Wentian wouldn't allow them to leave either. They didn't ask Qin Wentian what happened. There was no need to ask. Even if they asked, what could they do? Would Qin Wentian send them to their deaths? Who could they blame for their daughter's death? Could they blame Qin Wentian? Without Qin Wentian, how would they be where they are today? Most probably, they would have drifted along with the flow. No one knew which corner of the world they were in. They might be old men, or they might already be dead. Could they blame Little Rascal? Little Yi loved to play with him the most. Could it be that he was willing to see Little Yi die? Regardless of Qin Wentian or Little Rascal, they were the people closest to Little Yi. If they wanted to blame, they could only blame the ruthlessness of the heavenly Daos. If they wanted to blame someone, they could only blame themselves. They couldn't even protect their own daughter. Since they couldn't protect her, why did they have to give birth to her? They hated themselves for being useless and powerless. In fact, they could even faintly see their daughter's corpse turning into bones. Who would be able to understand such bone-chilling pain? In addition, the more they thought about it, the more painful it became. Not only for Fan Lu and Xian Xian, Fan Ye's good friend, Ouyang Qinxin, also felt an indescribable pain. She who was sitting at home suddenly had tears streaming down her face. She was discovered by Jiang Ting and hurriedly asked, "Qinxin, what's wrong?" Ouyang Qinxin was still crying. She even knelt on the ground, tears covering her beautiful face, scaring Jiang Ting so much that she didn't know what to do. She hurriedly took out her messaging crystal and spoke, "Ouyang, quickly come over and take a look." Not long after, Ouyang Quangxing rushed over. When he saw the state Ouyang Qinxin was in, his heart was filled with pain. He hugged his daughter and spoke, "Qinxin, what happened? Tell Dad." Ouyang Qinxin inclined her head. Her eyes were bloodshot. After that, she rushed into the embrace of her parents and sobbed, "Something happened to little Yi." "What?" Ouyang Quangxing and Jiang Ting's hearts trembled. "Qinxin, tell us clearly what happened." Ouyang Qinxin sobbed, "Little Yi, she was killed by someone." Ouyang Quangxing and Jiang Ting's hearts trembled violently because of the words of their daughter. How could this be? "Qinxin, don't let your thoughts run wild. How could something happen to little Yi? Didn't she go out to play with little rascal?" Jiang Ting stared at her daughter as she spoke. "Something really happened. I can sense it, I truly sensed it. Uncle Qin sent someone from the divine sect into the heaven vault and he left by himself. Before this, I didn't understand, but not long ago I suddenly sensed it. I can't explain it clearly, but it's true." Ouyang Quangxing and Jiang Ting exchanged glances. In that case, they also felt that what Qinxin said might be true. But why did Qinxin suddenly sense it earlier? This didn't make sense. Could Qinxin sense it? Even if she had a premonition, why didn't she sense it when something happened to little Yi? It was only after Qin Wentian learned of it that she suddenly sensed it? Let me ask. Ouyang Quangxing took out his messaging crystal and felt a heavy feeling in his heart. He sent a strand of immortal sense into it, transmitting it to Qin Wentian. Qinxin suddenly started crying. She said something happened to little Yi. Is this true? There was silence for a moment. After that, a voice rang out, "Qinxin, how did she know?" Ouyang Quangxing only felt pain in his heart. He exchanged glances with Jiang Ting. Something really happened to Qin Wentian. How could this be? Qinxin said that not long ago, she sensed something similar, and it was extremely intense. That child kept crying. Ouyang Quangxing replied. He was somewhat worried for Fan Lu and Xian Xian. If they knew that little Yi was killed, how heartbroken would they be? He couldn't imagine what would happen if he lost Qinxin. That would definitely be worse than death. When Qin Wentian heard Ouyang Quangxing's voice transmission, an ominous premonition suddenly appeared in his heart. Since that mysterious energy could even sense it, what about the others? Although he didn't know what kind of Buddhist energy that was exactly, it must be extremely terrifying. Qinxin was actually affected so intensely. Her heart was filled with grief. Ouyang, quickly go look after Fan Lu and Xian Xian. Don't let anything happen to them. Qin Wentian suddenly transmitted his voiceover. His tone was filled with anxiety. Ouyang Quangxing's heart tightened, right? I will immediately go look for them. He put down his messaging crystal and spoke to Jiang Ting. Take care of Qinxin. Last, don't let your thoughts run wild. After speaking, his silhouette flashed as he hurriedly departed. And at the same time, Qin Wentian also left the Ziwei Divine Court of the Mystic region, rushing back to the Heaven region. That Buddhist energy didn't only affect little Yi. It might even affect the others in the Heaven Vault. This matter had to be resolved no matter what. He had a bad premonition that something might happen to Fan Lu and Xian Xian. After Qin Wentian and the heaven-devouring beast left, more and more people rushed over to the ruins of the Ziwei Divine Court. They stared at the ruins as they sighed in their hearts. A peak power of the mystic region, the Ziwei Divine Court, has been destroyed. Right now, the three hegemonic powers of the mystic region, the Heavenly Deity Mountain and the Ziwei Divine Court, were both destroyed. Only the Great Devil Divine Palace remained. The news here soon circulated through the supreme ancient immortal realms, causing a huge commotion. Not long after Qin Wentian left, a terrifying black fog gushed over. This black fog was extremely evil. causing the people in the surroundings to retreat. After that, the black fog moved towards the corpses below. Especially the corpses, they were directly sucked into the black fog and vanished without a trace. Is that Yu Changkong? Someone's heart trembled. Moon god Yu Changkong of the Ziwei Divine Court cultivated an evil art. This wasn't a secret, many people knew about it. Right now, he didn't even spare the corpses of the deities. Chapter 1959. In the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms, the news of the Ziwei Divine Court being destroyed once again caused a huge commotion. Other than Yu Changkong, all heavenly deities were killed. The vast Ziwei Divine Court was devoured by the heaven-devouring beast. Right now, Qin Wentian was already so powerful that even peak characters would feel trepidation towards him. However, should they act against him? The Ziwei Divine Court was a good example. Very soon, everyone knew the reason for this storm. Qin Wentian's goddaughter, the daughter of his younger brother, Fan Lu, was killed by Yu Changkong. In addition, they also knew that the Western world might be behind this storm. Several months ago, a Buddha lord from the Western world paid a visit to the Heaven Vault and threatened Qin Wentian. However, after that, the Western world didn't act. Yu Changkong was the one who acted. Maybe Yu Changkong was confident that he was strong enough to kill Qin Wentian. But sadly, he still failed. It was said that Yu Changkong's evil arts grew stronger and stronger. If not, it would be impossible for him to control the Ziwei Divine Court and become the moon god. There were also people who said that Yu Changkong might be a reincarnated cultivator. In his past life, he was a supremely terrifying existence. But even so, he still failed to defeat Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian's existence caused the hegemonic powers of the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms to feel increasingly uneasy. Back then, how could they have imagined that he would rise to such an extent in such a short period of time? All these changes happened after that battle in the Qin clan. At that time, Qin Wentian still relied on others to protect him. But now, he was already independent. In the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect, after Qin Wentian received Ouyang Guangxing's voice transmission, he immediately rushed back and headed towards the Heaven Vault. The Heaven Vault opened. Qin Wentian stepped out and entered. Astral light cascaded down on him. Qin Wentian had a heavy expression on his face. Little Rascal followed behind him with a similarly heavy expression. Little Ye's death clearly wasn't something that could be resolved so quickly. Very soon Qin Wentian found Fan Lu and Xian Exan. At the instant he saw them, Qin Wentian's heart violently twitched. He felt an intense pain in his heart. Ouyang Guangxing stood there, and upon seeing the arrival of Qin Wentian, he didn't say a word. His countenance was as gloomy as ever. Why is this happening? Ouyang Guangxing clenched his fists tightly. Fan Lu and Xian Exan sat together. Xian Exan's head rested on Fan Li's shoulder, appearing so tranquil and serene. However, they were like statues. Their breathing had stopped, and even their heartbeats had stopped. Qin Wentian's steps were incomparably heavy as he walked towards Fan Lu. He sat on the ground in front of Fan Lu and stretched out his trembling hands, gently caressing Fan Li's face. "Fatty, wake up." However, it seemed like Fatty would never wake up again. He was going to enter an eternal slumber with his beloved. His heart had already died. The power of life rushed into their bodies through Qin Wentian's palms, trying to revive their lives. However, no matter how strong the power of life was, it could not wake up a person who did not want to wake up. If their hearts were dead, why would they wake up? "Fatty, are you going to abandon your brother just like that?" Qin Wentian stroked the familiar face in front of him, involuntarily recalling the scenes of their youth. When they first met in the Emperor Star Academy, they were so young and filled with vitality. That genius Fatty was so shameless, yet radiant at the same time. But now Fatty had actually fallen asleep. He had fallen asleep forever. Was it only because of Xiao Ye's death that the two of them had given up? Of course it was impossible. Although Xiao Ye's death would make the two of them heartbroken, it was impossible for them to be in a deep sleep like statues. They must have been affected by some unknown power, just like what Ouyang Zixin had said. They must have been infected by that unknown power. "Ouyang, how is Qin Xin?" Qin Wentian turned his gaze to Ouyang Guangxing. He didn't want anything to happen to Qin Xin. Her emotions are still unstable. I got Jiang Ting to accompany her to stabilize her emotions, Ouyang Guangxing replied. When he saw Fan Lu and Xian Xian, his heart was filled with fear. He was afraid that Qin would end up like them. Wentian, what power is this exactly? Why is it able to control others? In fact, we can't even see it? Ouyang Guangxing's voice was filled with rage. Right now, he was also a world overlord and naturally knew that there was someone controlling everything from behind the scenes. In fact, Little Ye's death most probably had something to do with it. The Western world. Qin Wentian's voice was so low that it was terrifying. He wasn't very clear about the Buddhist path, but after the destruction of the Ziwei Divine Court, the Buddha figure that appeared in the void had been spying on him. If even he could spy on them, let alone Fan Lu and Qin. Qin Wentian waved his hand as a figure appeared. This was Fan Ye's body. She seemed to have regained her physical body, but there was no aura of life within her. She floated to the front of Fan Lu and Xian Xian, and after that, a formless energy lifted them up. Qin Wentian then stepped out, bringing them along as he departed. Since things have already come to this, what's the point of feeling sad? What he needed to do now was to think of a way to save Fan Lu and Xian Xian. Their souls were still present, they weren't completely dead. Ouyang Guangxing and Little Rascal silently followed behind him. Their hearts were incomparably heavy. Qin Wentian sent Fan Lu and the others to the floating palace he was staying in. Many people came over. His family and friends all received the news and gathered here. Even Jiang Ting and Qin came over. Qin saw Fan Yi lying on the ground. She cried even harder. Her body trembled as she walked to Fan Yi and knelt before her as she sobbed helplessly. Qin Wentian felt pity in his heart when he saw this scene. He carried her up and Qin hugged Qin Wentian's neck as she sobbed. Uncle Qin. Qin Wentian gently patted Qin's head. Qin, you mustn't let anything happen to you again. Do you understand? Qin sobbed and nodded, her tears drenching Qin Wentian's robes. Elder brother, is it the Buddhist sect? Luo Shenlei stood beside Qin Wentian and asked. Qin Wentian nodded lightly. He inclined his head and stared at Luo Shenchuan as he asked, Grandfather, Fan Lu and Xian Xian didn't have any contact with the Western world, but they were affected to this extent. Also, Qin was affected as well. In fact, even I once felt that I was being spied on and saw the body of the Buddhist sect in the void. However, the people from the Western world only came here once several months ago. Do you know what sort of ability this is? Luo Shenchuan frowned. After that, he shook his head. The Western world has always been powerful and mysterious, unfathomable. It's rumored that they have a total of 3,000 Buddhas, boundless das. This is the truth of the world. It's possible that they are proficient in all sorts of abilities, but I don't dare to say what exactly this ability is. Qin Wentian's expression was heavy. If he wanted to save Fan Lu and Xian Xian, he had to unravel this Tao. But now, he didn't even know what Tao this was and what sort of ability it was. I'm going out for a while. You guys stay in the heaven vault and cultivate well. Qin Wentian spoke to everyone. Everyone nodded. No one asked him what he was going to do. If he wanted to go out, he naturally had his reasons. Mo Qingcheng held onto Qin Wentian's hand as her beautiful eyes stared at him. Qin Wentian nodded lightly to her, indicating for her not to worry. Only then did she release her hand. Spatial light flashed as Qin Wentian directly vanished from his original location. In Daoask City, the Tiandao Sacred Academy still stood there. This sacred ground wasn't affected at all by the calamity. In fact, its status was even higher than before. Everyone in the world already knew that there was a headmaster with heaven-defying methods in the Tiandao Sacred Academy, who could stand undefeated in this calamity. In addition, that legendary character whose name shook the supreme ancient immortal realms, Qin Wentian, had also cultivated in the Tiandao Sacred Academy before. He could be considered as half a disciple of the Tiandao Sacred Academy. In the supreme ancient immortal realms, it was unknown how many geniuses would come here on a pilgrimage, wanting to enter the Sacred Academy for cultivation. At this moment, outside the Tiandao Sacred Academy, a figure suddenly appeared. This figure was clad in white and exuded an incomparably carefree aura, as though he was one with the heavens and earth. When they saw him, many people started. After that, exclamations of shock rang out. Qin Wentian. Back then, Qin Wentian had once cultivated in the Tiandao Sacred Academy before. He had appeared several times in Daoask City, and there were people who recognized him. In an instant, countless gazes turned to that figure. Not long ago, Qin Wentian destroyed the Ziwei Divine Court. Did he come to the Tiandao Sacred Academy now? However, at the next moment, Qin Wentian directly entered the Sacred Academy. Before many people could react, he had already vanished, causing them to feel regret. Sadly, Qin Wentian was a legendary character in the supreme ancient immortal realms. It wasn't so easy to meet him. He was the sect leader of the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect, the controller of the Heaven Vault. He was someone who could destroy the Ziwei Divine Court alone. Right now, Qin Wentian no longer has any reservations and can enter the Heaven Vault freely. He came to the Tiandao Sacred Academy alone. Someone spoke. If it was in the past, he definitely wouldn't dare to do so. After all, there were too many people in the supreme ancient immortal realms who wanted to deal with him. But now, Qin Wentian was already so confident. He wasn't afraid that anyone would come looking for him. Within the Tiandao Sacred Academy, the three heavenly deities were waiting for him. When they saw Qin Wentian, they spoke. Headmaster Yi is already waiting for you. Many thanks to the teachers. Qin Wentian nodded. After that, he was brought to a place where he saw Headmaster Yi. Qin Wentian pays his respects to Headmaster. Qin Wentian bowed, appearing extremely polite. Sit. Headmaster Yi smiled warmly, indicating for Qin Wentian to sit down. Qin Wentian wasn't polite and sat down. I should be able to guess your purpose for coming here. In truth, before this, I even spoke to Dugu and the others about your matters. Headmaster Yi stared at Qin Wentian and took the initiative to speak. Qin Wentian replied, Headmaster, please guide me. The person who went to your Qin Heavenly Divine Sect in the past is a Buddha Lord from the Western world, the Karma Buddha. He is proficient in the Tao of Karma. Headmaster Yi spoke. Qin Wentian's eyes flashed. Back then, he imparted a cultivation art to my adopted daughter. Is this a seed of karma? From then on, everything about your adopted daughter is within the Tao of Karma. Also, everyone around her has already entered the Tao and are affected by the karma of karma. Headmaster Yi replied. How should we resolve it? Qin Wentian asked again. If we want to resolve karma, we naturally have to deal with the root of it. If the Karma Buddha is destroyed, the karma would naturally dissipate. Other than this, we need him to take the initiative to resolve it. I'm afraid this is impossible. Headmaster Yi spoke. Chapter 1960. Qin Wentian was speechless when he heard Headmaster Ye's words. He suddenly understood many things. He naturally knew that it was impossible for the Karma Buddha to take the initiative to undo the karma. In truth, the Karma Buddha didn't enter the divine sect just to threaten him. He was already prepared to act against him and coincidentally encountered Little Yi. Maybe this was fate. Even if it wasn't Little Yi, the Karma Buddha would definitely find someone else and use a different method to plant the seed of karma. After the seed of karma was planted, Little Ye's fate was already determined. The Karma Buddha controlled her. The Western world didn't act directly. Yu Chongkong stepped out instead. Even if Yu Chongkong couldn't deal with him, he was still trapped in this karma and had no way to escape. In the end, he still had to face the person who planted the seed of karma. The other party only needed to sit in the Western world and watch everything happen. There was basically no need for him to act. Even at the very end, he only needed to wait for Qin Wentian to come knocking on his door. This was the Tao of Karma. From the moment the Karma Buddha stepped into the Western world, everything was already destined. Thank you for your guidance, Senior. Qin Wentian clasped his hands. Headmaster Yi shook his head. It's just a minor matter. The Western world is very strong, you have to be careful. Qin Wentian nodded. After that, he bid farewell and departed. If it was during normal times, he might stay in Tiandao Sacred Academy for a period of time. But now, how could he be in the mood to do so? After he left, Headmaster Yi and the three heavenly deities from Tiandao Sacred Academy stared at his departing back. In the eyes of the heavenly deities, they were filled with worry for him. Since the headmaster said that the Western world was very strong, it naturally meant that they were extremely strong. And now it seemed that Qin Wentian would inevitably clash with the Western world. From their perspective, although Qin Wentian was already strong enough to destroy the Ziwei Divine Court, he still wouldn't be able to shake the Western world. Headmaster, if Qin Wentian heads to the Western world, wouldn't he be walking into a trap? Goddess Dugu asked with concern. After all, she and Qin Wentian had a fate of becoming an apostle. Qin Wentian once referred to her as his teacher. Now, this disciple of hers was even more outstanding than her. She naturally didn't wish for Qin Wentian to die. Qin Wentian's fate is not that simple. Dinyi smiled and shook his head, however. I'm afraid it won't be easy to survive this calamity. Didn't the Grim Reaper threaten the Western world before? Could it be that the Western world no longer cares about the Grim Reaper? The life-governed heavenly deity frowned. We still have some trepidation, hence we didn't act directly earlier. Even now, we still let Qin Wentian go up himself. As for giving up the Heaven Vault because of a single threat from the Grim Reaper, we are truly underestimating the Western world. Headmaster Yi calmly spoke as he stared at the Western world. Qin Wentian left. In the outside world, many people rushed over from afar after hearing the news of him coming to the Sacred Academy. They wanted to take a look at him, but ultimately, they didn't manage to make it in time. Many people sighed in their hearts. With regards to a living legend, the people of the world would always want to admire them. Qin Wentian was precisely a living legend. Also, this was only the current him. He was still growing. 1,000 years later, he might become a legend in the supreme ancient immortal realms. Naturally, there was also a possibility that Qin Wentian would die in this calamity. After all, his opponent was the incomparably powerful Western world. After Qin Wentian returned to the Heaven Vault, he went to his floating palace and glanced at Fan Lu and his family. Fan Lu and Xian Xian were peacefully leaning against each other, while little Yi was quietly lying beside them. This scene was so tranquil, but when Qin Wentian saw this scene, his heart turned cold. He had to take revenge for this. He would definitely kill Yu Chongkong, and the main culprit, the Western world, would pay a price as well. Resolutely turning, Qin Wentian left this place and started his cultivation. He still had a Dao art that he hadn't matured yet. He planned to make another trip out after he mastered it. Although he wanted nothing more than to kill his way to the Western world right now and kill the Karma Buddha, awakening Fan Lu and Xian Xian, he was still rational. It was easy to be impulsive, but it would be useless. Not only would he fail to take revenge, he might even fall into the trap of the Western world. And once he fell into the trap of the Western world, the ones in trouble wouldn't just be Fan Lu and Xian Xian. All the people he wanted to protect would be annihilated as well. This was something he absolutely couldn't accept, and he couldn't afford to pay such a price. Hence, no matter how angry and cold his heart was, he still suppressed the thought of killing his way to the Western world. In the blink of an eye, several months passed. But to Qin Wentian, who was cultivating in the secret realm, tens of years had passed. The flow of time was 100 times faster, allowing him to have more time to comprehend his insights. Ouyang Guangxing interrupted Qin Wentian from his cultivation, and told him that last Qinxin's emotions still hadn't stabilized even now. It was as though she couldn't walk out from the sorrow she felt. If it wasn't for the matter regarding Qinxin, Ouyang Guangxing wouldn't have come looking for Qin Wentian. He knew that Qin Wentian was busy with his cultivation. After Qin Wentian learned of this, he immediately ended his cultivation and went to look for Ouyang Qinxin. Ouyang Qinxin's entire person was much more haggard than before. Her youthful and beautiful appearance was now much thinner, as though she had lost the vitality of the past. Uncle Qin. Upon seeing Qin Wentian, Ouyang Qinxin called out in a light voice. Qinxin, your father told me that you still haven't walked out from your sorrow. What's going on exactly? Qin Wentian asked. I don't know either. My mind is filled with little Yi. Every time I see her coming to look for me, I would see the scene of her being killed. Even if I wanted to rest, I would be jolted awake by nightmares. Ouyang Qinxin shook her head lightly. She was in great pain, not only because of the pain of her best friend's death, but also because of the torment she felt in her heart and soul, causing her will to crumble. Karma Buddha. Qin Wentian's heart turned cold. As long as the Karma Buddha doesn't die, karma would continue to exist. Qinxin would always be affected. Was this a warning from the Karma Buddha? Qin Wentian felt some heartache. He walked up and hugged Qin lightly as he spoke in a light voice. Qin, you have to live well. Uncle Qin doesn't want to see anything happen to you. Losing little Yi had already caused him great pain. If something happened to Qin as well, he didn't know how to face it. Ouyang Qin nodded her head forcefully. When she thought of how she could still hug Uncle Qin and be comforted by him while little Yi had already turned into a corpse, her tears flowed uncontrollably, drenching Qin Wentian's robes. But Uncle Qin, I can't control myself. Qin also wanted to try her best not to think about it, but she had no way to control her own feelings. Uncle Qin knows. Qin Wentian silently blamed himself. He naturally knew why Qin couldn't control herself. Because this was karma. She was in the Tao, and the Tao of karma was something even he couldn't see through, let alone Qin. Qin Wentian kept hugging Qin. She simply sobbed in Qin Wentian's embrace until her voice gradually grew softer. Qin Wentian lowered his head and discovered that Qin's beautiful eyes were closed and she was quietly sleeping. There were even traces of tears at the corners of her eyes. She actually fell asleep just like that. Upon seeing this scene, Qin Wentian felt even more pain in his heart. This lass, how tired was she to fall to such an extent? She hasn't slept in peace for a very long time. Maybe in your embrace she would feel more secure. Ouyang Quangxing transmitted his voice to Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian stared at the haggard countenance of the young girl. He inclined his head and stared at the sky as he drew in a deep breath. Seems like he couldn't wait any longer. His body didn't move, he simply stood there, allowing the young girl to sleep a little longer. Little Yi. In her sleep, Qin's body trembled as though she was having a nightmare. Uncle Qin, save little Yi, save me. She seemed to be in a nightmare and actually spoke in her sleep. Her voice was so weak and helpless, causing one's heart to break just by listening to it. Qin Wentian was like a statue, not moving in the slightest. He was afraid that even the slightest movement would disturb the young girl. He silently vowed in his heart that he would never let Qin suffer the same fate as little Yi. Never. Qin slept peacefully for a few hours. She slowly woke up and saw that she was lying in Qin Wentian's embrace. She inclined her head and stared at Qin Wentian as she called out, Uncle Qin, why did I fall asleep? A doting smile appeared on Qin Wentian's face as he gently stroked her head. Qin, you are too tired. You must rest well in the future. Qin nodded. She would definitely work hard. Don't let Uncle Qin and your parents worry anymore. Qin Wentian added. Qin turned her gaze onto Ouyang Quangxing as she called out in a melodious voice, Father. Silly lass. Ouyang Quangxing sighed. Qin Wentian then spoke, I'm leaving. Ouyang, take good care of this lass. Also Qin, remember Uncle Qin's words. I won't allow anything to happen to you. The two of them nodded. Qin Wentian left and returned to his own palace. He didn't stay for long. He bade farewell to Qingqing and Qing as he walked out of the heaven vault alone. In the heaven vault, not many people knew that Qin Wentian had left. The people in the outside world naturally didn't know about this. The universe region was extremely vast. Every day there would be countless people entering and exiting it. Today, a young man stepped into the universe region and didn't cause any commotion at all. He was like a grain of sand in the ocean, unable to cause any ripples at all. Nobody knew that he was here, and nobody knew what he was here for. Chapter 1961. In the supreme ancient immortal realms, there were some secret realms and forbidden grounds that very few people could enter. Or maybe after they entered it would be very hard for them to exit alive. There were many secret realms that few people knew about because very few people succeeded in exploring them. Hence very few people knew about them. Speaking of the Heaven Vault, very few people knew about the secret of the Heaven Vault. It was only now that the secret of the Heaven Vault has been unraveled. However, there were still some secret realms that had yet to be unraveled. In the eastern extremity of the supreme ancient immortal realms, there was a floating sea there. It was rumored that there was an extremely terrifying energy within. In every era there would be people coming to the chaos region to explore it, but very few people managed to find out the secrets within. Even for experts from the peak powers, it was tough for them to do so. Once, there were even heavenly deities from the peak powers who fell into the sea and never came out. This was also the reason why after that, even experts from the peak powers didn't dare to explore this place recklessly. Up until now, at most there would only be people standing outside occasionally. No one dared to enter the floating sea. There were people who said that the floating sea was a boundless black hole, the end of the supreme ancient immortal realms, able to devour everything. At this moment in the airspace above the floating sea, a black fog drifted over. After that, a figure descended from the sky, landing on a huge reef in the floating sea. This figure looked extremely demonic and his countenance was pale. "Are you sure there's a great opportunity here?" Yu Changkong spoke. However, there was no one beside him. It was like he was mumbling to himself. "Naturally, don't forget who I was in your previous life." A voice rang out from the void. "Behind the floating sea, there's a great secret of the supreme ancient immortal realms. In this era, most probably only a few people know about it. Naturally, even if they knew about it, those who could enter the floating sea can only be counted in the entire supreme ancient immortal realms. As for you who was born in my previous life, you are naturally one of them." "Right." Yu Changkong nodded. In the battle earlier, he actually failed to defeat Qin Wentian. This caused him to feel very depressed and a sense of defeat. Naturally, the him now wouldn't waver. Right now, his heart was much more resolute compared to the past. Sooner or later, he would trample the entire world beneath his feet, treating everyone as his slaves. "Let's go." A voice rang out from the void. Yu Changkong stepped out, moving towards the suspended sea. Terrifying gigantic waves gushed over. Yu Changkong stared at the scene ahead, and even with his state of heart, he couldn't help but feel his heart trembling. This was a sea that covered the sky. It wasn't laid horizontally on the ground, but rather it was a vertical sea. There were terrifying whirlpools of tempests swirling about, and there seemed to be a black hole within. Hence, this place was named the Suspended Sea. Yu Changkong's body entered the hanging sea. After that, he seemed to have stepped into an incomparably terrifying black hole. Inside, there were countless vortexes that even his divine sense couldn't probe. But at this moment, countless heads of black fog appeared around him, all of them heading in different directions to probe around him. Relying on his powerful strength as well as his previous life after a very long time, Yu Changkong finally exited the Suspended Sea and came to the back of the Suspended Sea. This place wasn't the underwater world. It was the true back of the Suspended Sea. It was like two parallel worlds. The Suspended Sea seemed to be separated from the real world. When Yu Changkong descended, he saw the sky and the earth, as well as the buildings. His eyes flashed with a dazzling light. The world was truly filled with boundless mysteries. On the other side of the Suspended Sea, there were actually worlds hidden within. In that case, what place was this exactly? Yu Changkong floated forward. He saw people. Although this place wasn't as luxurious as those major cities in the supreme ancient immortal realms, there were still quite a lot of people here. This place was like a small town, an extremely quiet one. Also, the cultivation bases of the people here were all very strong. When his divine sense swept out, he actually felt a sense of trepidation. The children here were all immortals. Many were world overlords, and there were even heavenly deities. What place is this? Yu Changkong felt some shock in his heart. But at the same time, he also felt some excitement. Just like what his previous life had said, there was indeed great good fortune here. Even if he devoured all the people here as nourishment, it would definitely be a great nourishment for him. When this thought appeared in his mind, it caused him to feel indescribably excited as an evil gleam flashed in his eyes. At this moment, many people below stared at this unfamiliar guest with wariness in their eyes. This was especially so when they sensed the divine sense sweeping past them. Their expressions grew even colder as they stared at this uninvited guest. What was going on exactly? Another uninvited guest actually came here. Many years ago, a young man also came here. However, when that young man came, he was heavily injured and almost died. As for this young man, he was brimming with energy and radiated an evil light. Clearly, this young man was stronger. His gaze caused people to feel disgust in their hearts. Who is the person in charge here? Yu Changkong didn't mask the evil charm in his smile as he asked the experts below. The people below inclined their heads and stared at him. No one replied. Yu Changkong's evil smile turned to a child as he asked, "You tell uncle." "I won't tell you. Elder Sister Curson said that we can't get close to strangers." That young child casually spoke. Yu Changkong's eyes flashed as he asked, "Who is Elder Sister Curson?" That child was already dragged behind him by his adult. His adult then inclined his head and asked, "Sir, why did you come here? What's your purpose?" "Just because of a coincidence." Yu Changkong giggled. "Since you don't want to tell me, I will naturally search for her myself." After speaking, Yu Changkong continued moving forward. His powerful divine sense extended outwards, wanting to envelop this entire place. Since he came here, the first thing he wanted to do was naturally to understand the strength of this place. He wanted to find the person in charge because he wanted to see how strong the cultivation base of the leader of this place was. From afar, the beautiful eyes of a young woman suddenly opened as she stared in the direction of Yu Changkong. Her beautiful eyes were brimming with energy, incomparably dazzling. Her beauty was unparalleled. The instant Yu Changkong saw her, he couldn't help but to start. He felt that his eyes were playing tricks on him. How could this be possible? In such a place there was actually such a supreme beauty? What was even more terrifying was that this supreme beauty was actually a powerful heavenly deity. The aura radiating from her caused people to feel fear in their hearts. After Yu Changkong started, the smile on his face grew even more radiant. However, it was still filled with evil. That young woman radiated an incomparably resplendent divine light. She was a true goddess. She who was bathed in divine light was simply so beautiful that everyone in the world had to look up to her. "What do you think about becoming my Tao companion?" Yu Changkong softly spoke, his heart pounding. This woman was countless times more perfect compared to Dong Huangying. Regardless of beauty or talent, he only wanted revenge against Dong Huangying. This young woman before him was the only one who could move his heart. She was qualified to become his Tao companion, a perfect Tao companion. This woman isn't simple. Her strength is definitely very strong. In addition, I feel that there are even more terrifying people here. Don't die here. A voice rang out in Yu Changkong's mind. That extremely arrogant and unbridled person from his previous life actually felt some trepidation towards this place. This caused Yu Changkong to feel some disbelief. "This doesn't seem like you. We haven't completely awakened yet. Sometimes it's best to be more cautious. It's not so easy to escape from this place." That voice rang out again. Yu Changkong nodded. At this moment, he felt another powerful divine sense locking onto him. When he saw the owner of this divine sense, he was stunned once again. This secret realm truly gave him many surprises. He actually saw someone familiar. Also, this person was a supreme genius who once shook the heavens and earth in the supreme ancient immortal realms. Heaven's son Qin Dangtian. He had also arrived here. Qin Dangtian naturally also saw Yu Changkong. He took a step out and appeared near Yu Changkong. This person who was once Heaven's son seemed to have lost some of his sharpness compared to before. His aura was more profound. If it was in the past, Qin Dangtian would surely feel disdain when he saw Yu Changkong. He who was once Heaven's son wouldn't even bother to look Yu Changkong in the eye. But now he was surveying Yu Changkong and could sense that Yu Changkong was different from before. "Brother Qin, how have you been? I didn't expect that you would actually come here." Yu Changkong smiled. "How did you come in?" Qin Dangtian calmly asked. This place was discovered by the ancestors of the Qin clan before, and they knew of this secret. However, the ancestors who came here all had no way to return. Hence, very few people dared to barge into this place. But Qin Dangtian came here and almost died. But because of his incomparably resolute heart, he still managed to arrive here. "Yu Changkong, how did he come here?" "Naturally, I walked in." Yu Changkong smiled. He glanced at the beautiful woman and asked, "Brother Qin, who is this beauty? Brother Qin, can you introduce her to me?" Qin Dangtian stared at Yu Changkong and coldly spoke, "You better not have any thoughts or you will have to bear the consequences." Brother Qin is still as arrogant as ever. Yu Changkong coldly laughed. Not being polite to him, would he be afraid of Qin Dangtian now? Although the current Qin Dangtian seemed to be different from before, how could he still be the Yu Changkong of the past? At this moment, black fog appeared behind Yu Changkong as a face appeared. This face stared at the woman and Qin Dangtian before asking, "Who is the tomb keeper?" The eyes of the woman flashed as she stared at the face that appeared. Coldness flickered in her eyes. Qin Dangtian's eyes also flashed with coldness. What was going on with the face behind Yu Changkong? As for the tomb keeper, up until now, he had never truly come into contact with him. He had only seen him from afar. However, he knew who the beautiful woman not far away was. She was the daughter of the tomb keeper. It was said that the tomb keepers were husband and wife. "My name is Qin Kursin. No matter who you are, it's best that you don't create trouble. If not, I will bury you," the woman coldly spoke. After that, she turned and departed. The multicolored light radiating from her was still as Qin Kursin. Her cold voice didn't sound like she was trying to scare Qin Dangtian. You're tuning into the Li Mei Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.